my god. Don't want to miss it. Hello. Oh my god, I'm so excited. 10 chapters. 10 chapters! And then we're ready to go, and we're finishing up. Didn't stall, started right on schedule. I was actually just like waiting, hovering. I was gonna start early, but I didn't. Hello. I'm so excited. Okay. 10 chapters. I am curious about what's gonna happen at the end of this. I'm very, very excited to see what's happening for the end. We only have like 10 more chapters left. We're gonna see what happens. I don't know. I'm really scared. Here's the thing. I'm really, really scared because there's always something that happens that makes me cry at the end of the volumes. Like, we had Groselle, and we've had like old Coiler and like the fog, and we had like Captain Dunn's death. So like that was all of it. I'm so scared. So scared for the last 10 chapters here, because nothing's really like got me. Like Azek's whole thing almost did, but I don't know. Or maybe nothing. I don't know. Maybe this might be like a cool, like the volume that's just like chill. And it's just like, you know, we have like an exciting fight and something goes down, but nothing really hits. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to get started and I'm going to go. Chapter 936, Don't Want to Miss Out. Amidst the crackling sounds, a white piece of illusory paper spewed out. I don't think Cuttlefish would do that to me. No, I don't think he would. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Radio Cheesy, honor or words composed of blow and ease. Exalted great master, your puny, loyal, and humble servant of Rhodes is here to answer your summoning. Did you know Dr. Aaron Saris's child was born the night before the last? Thankfully, I contacted the magic mirror in time. Klein nodded. Oh, hell yeah! Little guy. He was, why am I forgetting his name right now? I'm so nervous. I'm so scared for this final. Will accepted. He was born. Thankfully, I contracted the magic mirror and contacted them. Amidst clacking sounds, more of the illusory white paper spewed out. Based on the principles of reciprocity, it's your turn to ask a question. Klein originally wanted to ask about the matters regarding Insangwell 0-08 and the Red Angel Evil Spirit, but considering how he had failed divining it above the Grey Fog, it was almost certain that Rhodes was unable to see it. At best, it could provide him more detailed information regarding 0-08, but this way, without the Grey Fog seeing it, at best, it could provide more details about the information regarding 0-8, but without the Grey Fog screening, it would equivalent to him knowing of 0-08, and it would result in knowing him. It doesn't benefit him when it came to hiding behind the scenes of direct play. After thinking for 2 seconds, he asked, what means are there to speed up digestion of potions? Do a better job acting. On the illusory white paper, black words were produced. Upon seeing this, the magic mirror's reply, Klein first fell silent before slowly exhaled. From the present him, Insangwell appeared was too early. He still needed about 2 months to completely digest the Marionettas potion. When that happened, and with him already gathering the ingredients, he could orchestrate an assassination of the demigod. Insangwell, placing the sequence advancement with his wish together, then there was no need for him to consider any room for retreat. However, Insangwell wouldn't appear until he was done preparing everything. He wouldn't follow the steps that Klein had in mind. Based on Klein's earliest ideas, it was first to gather information, figure out where Insangwell was, and wait until it was late August or early September, before confirming the plans based on the situation. If not for the possession of the evil spirit, Insangwell wouldn't have exposed himself. If he didn't use Insangwell's current condition, it was very possible that he could find the latter once again, once he exercised the evil spirit. Coincidences would stand in his way when it came to meeting him. Furthermore, it were really the Red Angel evil spirit. Klein would also worry about Insangwell might have already died at the time he and Leonard started exacting revenge. The reason behind the death could be due to certain machinations or from some ridiculously comedic situation, and not because of his sins. Due to consideration, Klein's attempt to digest his potion faster, hoping that he could complete it within a week or two. However, Rhodes' answer left him depressed. He also knew that this wasn't something he could force. In 2 weeks or even the next few days, how was he to create a better opportunity to act? In his silence, Klein had already made up his mind. He didn't plan on trying the two matters together, and from the beginning he wanted revenge against Insangwell. And the preliminary goal provided there was a chance of success. He didn't wish to miss the opportunity. Although he had been about 10 months, less than a year, since the incident at Backlund's security company, it felt like a very, very long time. So long that he didn't wish to wait any longer. Catching a glance at the gloomy radio transceiver, Klein thought before wearing a stern look. He asked with a deep voice, "Back when I used the Winter Marionette to look at myself, I learned why Beyonders of the Fate Pathway will have such a reaction when facing me. Now I'd like to know what you see when you look at me." The question was a bolt out of the blue that seemed to echo in the room. The radio transceiver suddenly fell silent, and the cackling sound sounded after quite a while. The black illusory piece of paper spewed out, and on it were ghastly white words. I see support and dominance from you. Are you satisfied with such a question? Support, dominance. What does this mean? Klein had planned on pressing on it, but he believed that Rhodes was unlikely to explain it too clearly because it lacked the required knowledge. Realizing that the Mother Tree of Desire was about to find him and keep this up, he nodded and said, "Acceptable. This shall be all for today. You may return." The cackling of the radio transceiver became increasingly brisker as the paper appeared in white again. "All right, Great Master. Goodbye. Your loyal and humble servant of Rhodes is constantly at your service." This time, the magic mirror seemed to forget to add a waving hand drawing. That was quite a quick escape. Klein mumbled and immediately took 4 steps counterclockwise and entered the grey fog. He conjured the world Gammon Sparrow and informed the hermit Catlia and the mystical creature of blood that needed was ready. She was to provide the means to regain a certain amount of strength during one's weak stages as quickly as possible. Before long, Catlia set up a ritual and sacrificed an item to the fool and requested the mighty existence to hand it to the world and tell him that the principles of the item's effect was to temporarily borrow a potion from one's strength from their former self. This sounds familiar. It sounds like the powers of the Seer Pathway, Sequence 3 Scholar of Yore. The fool, Klein, was surprised when he picked up the item that Ma'am Hermit had sacrificed. It was like the end of a cane with a long transparent gem embedded on it. It was the carved and complicated, mysterious, and iridescent 3-dimensional symbol and magical label. Klein recognized 2 of them. One of them was incomplete pupilless eye, and the other was an incomplete contorted lines. Could this be an item that really points towards Sequence 0, the Fool? But isn't it a little too complicated? This cane feels really familiar. It's like the crystal ball little son had used when he prayed to me. Could it also correspond to another crimson star? Klein looked out the ancient palace with his odd expression, but he saw the illusory star suspended in the infinite gray fog without a sign of abnormality. With the fact that such items were one-use item like charms, he abandoned the idea of experimenting with it. All he could do was summon some paper from the junk pile and seriously record it down, the complicated and normal symbols of the magic label on the cane. Lowen Kingdom, Backlund, Dr. Aaron's residence. A maid was inside the master bedroom, taking care of the soundly sleeping infant. Downstairs, the banquet, with many guests attending, had reached a midway mark. Suddenly, in the corner, 3 figures quickly materialized. Leading them was a man with a silk top hat, black formal suit. He was none other than Klein Moretti, who hadn't disguised himself. He tossed out a charm and muttered in ancient Hermes, "Crimson." The dark red flames flashed, and amidst the light explosion sounds, soothing powers emanated out. The maid fell asleep instantly, collapsing onto the bedside into a deep sleep. "What? Klein, what are we doing here?" Klein made his 2 marionettes stand in their spots as he walked to the infant's cot and cast his gaze inside. It was a child wrapped in silver silk. His skin was very fair, and he was fleshy with layers after layers. This infant showed no fear towards the stranger as he looked straight at Klein with his eyes wide open while sucking his fingers. Ahem. Klein couldn't help but smile as he took off his hat and bowed. "Congratulations on being born." "You should say that to my parents." The infant pulled his fingers and spoke with a bright voice that didn't match his age. Klein chuckled and didn't harp on the meaningless topic with the snake of fate. He went straight to the point. "I brought the method that allows you to regain a certain amount of strength during your weak stages. You can now give me a drop of placenta blood." Willis Upton opened up his fleshy palms and said, "Let me take a look first." Oh my god, this is so fucking good. How do you know that the method is an item? Klein couldn't help but ask in puzzlement. Willow Septon scoffed. An intuition of fate. It's like you didn't say a thing. Klein moved the cane from behind him forward and handed it over. The infant held it tightly and glanced at it twice before raising his voice. This can only be used once. That's right, only once. Is that a problem? Klein deliberated and said, with your level and abilities, you can completely replicate the symbol and magic labels engraved on it. Then prepare the corresponding ingredients to hold the correct ritual. Wouldn't you allow you to use it multiple times? Willow Septon suddenly cut him off. All right, I accept. Remember, you were the one who suggested it. Klein was momentarily a little dumbfounded, but he also seemed to realize something. He had a vague feeling that despite him being here to take advantage of a baby, it ended up as the baby taking advantage of him. Yes, I was the one who suggested it. He finally drew a breath and nodded earnestly. The baby's plump face revealed a smile as he spread open his other hand. I've already prepared it for you. A total of 2 drops. 1 drop is for the transaction, and the other drop is for commission for facilitating this transaction. There's a commission. Klein was delighted as he hurriedly looked at Willow Septon's palm. There were 2 drops of silver blood there. Each drop appeared to have countless aloof, illusory wheels spinning. They formed the belt that had its head connected to its tail. Just one look at it made Klein seem to lose his ability to think. He felt all his thoughts repeatedly appearing in his mind. He hurriedly shook his head and took out the iron cigar case which contained Azic's copper whistle. He then placed the drops of snake blood, which had clearly been sealed inside. Thank you for your generosity. Klein said sincerely before asking, can this be used to make a charm? The baby sucked his fingers and said, of course. As for the exact symbol needed to carve, you have already seen those. You are free to choose a combination. Whatever you get will depend on your luck. Klein nodded and asked again, who should I pray to? You're probably unable to respond to the relatively high-level ritual for the time being, and praying to Aurora Boreas is borderline on being a provocation. Do I pray to sequence 2 Angel of the Fate Pathway? But I don't know their honorific names. Willow Septon immediately grinned. There's a more convenient method. Who? Klein pressed in delight. The baby replied in a giggle. Empress of Misfortune and Horror. Oh my god. Oh my god, so much is happening. Okay, Empress of Misfortune and Horror. Isn't that the goddess? That's right. Misfortune includes bad luck, a part of fate. The goddess has corresponding authority and can naturally give a response. By giving the suggestion, doesn't that mean that Willow Septon's eyes, he has always suspected that the Everknight's blessed? It's just that I didn't notice it myself. It's the same as the answer I received about how I should get the high sequence beyond our potion formula from the seer pathway. He is even more certain after what happened to St. Samuel Cathedral. Klein was first taken aback before he became enlightened. As though he was muttering to himself, he said, if I were to pray to the goddess, no matter what symbols I chose, the final product's effects will likely be inclined towards the domain of bad luck. That's common sense. The baby wrapped in silver silk shrouded. After obtaining confirmation, Klein felt more certain as he said with a smile, are you still named Willow Septon? He was very curious if he changed his name after being born. If you like it, you can continue thinking so. However, my full name has already been changed to Will... oh my god, why am I getting his last name wrong? Saris. The baby replied indifferently. Klein thought before asking, if I want to deal with the wielder of 0-08, what suggestions do you have? I don't want to know about 0-08. I just wish to know if you have any suggestions. The plump baby looked at him as he suddenly opened his mouth and let out a cry. The corners of Klein's lips quivered upon seeing the maid about to wake up. He took a few steps back and vanished from the room with his 2 marionettes. What a little fucking shit. Rorsted Sea on the Future, which was docked on the Bayham's residence private harbor. Calia, who was holding a ritual, saw a drop of silver blood fly out from the illusory door that manifested itself from the candlelight. With just one glance at it, she hurriedly closed her eyes, despite wearing her heavy glasses. At that instant, it felt like an aloof and mysterious wheel was spinning in a circle, forming a silver snake that had its head connected to its tail. This made her repeat her previous thoughts as she thanked Mr. Fools 12 consecutive times before returning to normal. It really is the blood of mythical creatures from the Fate Domain, and its level is higher than an ordinary angel. Catlia ended the ritual in delight as she took out the container she had prepared ahead of time, placing the drops of silver blood inside. After obtaining some information on the monster pathway from Queen Mystic and learning the existence of the Angel of Fate Ouroboros from Mr. Fool, she quickly came up with a guess as to whose blood belongs to who. Perhaps it was the one of the Life School of Thought, or there may be another Sequence 0 angel. Regardless, Mr. Fool is able to use at least 2 angels in the real world, along with the Ancient Bane that I can be certain of. Aside from the lack of sealed artifacts, the faction that believes in Mr. Fool is enough to match that of Orthodox churches. Even the Elemental Dawn and Moses Aztec Order can't compare. As expected of an awakening ancient god, increasingly filled with awe, Catlia drew a gasp and began considering her matters. Her other preparations were rather smooth sailing without of the accidents. All she needed to do was wait a month, so she attempted advancing sequence 4 to obtain godhood. Overcast with heavy black clouds, silver lightning would occasionally strike across the sky, illuminating the desolate plains and winding rivers that ran dry. In the middle of the plains, there was a river made of a half-circle black stacked shadow outline loomed in a lifeless city. After several days of traveling, the team led by Chief of the City of Silver 6-member council, Demon Hunter Colin Iliad, finally arrived at their destination, Noise City. The team was a small one, excluding Colin. There were only 4 other members. They were the 6-member council, Elder Shepherd Lovia, 2 Sequence 5 Guardian, Legier and Gonlum, as well as Sequence 6 Nodorai. Derek! Coldry, aw, little Derek. He's going on adventures. Aw, good for him. The overall strength of the team wasn't weaker than comparable expedition team. It was perhaps even stronger. According to Colin Iliad, this was because Noise City was filled with monsters, making it very dangerous. Well, really hope Derek's gonna be okay. Shapeshifters were adapted disguises and the enjoying making use of the trust between teammates. Therefore, the smaller expedition team better, and since there were fewer people, there was undoubtedly a need to prepare it with a stronger team. As they watched the city in front of them, which was covered in mist, one couldn't be lit up despite the lightning. Demon Hunter Colin drew 2 swords on his back unhurriedly and slathered the silver gray ornament in one, with the golden liquid on the other. He then stabbed his 2 swords in front of him. He then removed the 3 small metal bottles from the hidden compartment on the belt, pulled out the stopper, and gulped the components on the potion. Meanwhile, Legier and Gonlun had made preparations for combat. Derek Berg held his hammer in one hand, and as he opened his other palm with a solemn tone, he said in Jotun, "God says it's effective." Suddenly, Colin Iliad and company felt the consumed potion and conjured dawn, and they slathered ointment had been successfully augmented. Right on the heels of that, concentric rings of warm light emanated out, endowing the expedition team with courage and strength. After Derek used Holy Oath to boost his agility, Colin shot a glance at Lovia, who was holding an animal hide lathered and standing silently observing. He then turned his head to point to the perimeter of Noise City, which was more than 10 meters away. He said to the teenager, who once again asked a little taller, "Use your ability to light up the street ahead." After saying that, he surveyed the surroundings and added, "Once we enter Noise City, make sure that we do not separate." A few days ago, I had already introduced the more active monsters that hid away in the darkness of the region. All you should be aware of is how separating will be utilized by the shapeshifter. Gonlin was a beautiful female warrior who was 2.4 to 2.5 meters tall. Holy fuck. Upon hearing that, she thought and asked, "Then should we make..." Dude, why is everybody in the City of Silver so tall? Damn. Killing their own teammates and end up becoming lost for the Noise City forever. The grizzled Colin Iliad seriously warned. Derek looked at the silent city and was cloaked with a thin mist and subconsciously asked, "Your Excellency, was the city also under the Giant King's court?" My expectations for what's probably going to happen at the end of the book, I feel like we're probably going to get, like, Dally and Leonard are definitely gonna have, like, some sort of fight with the Numinous Episcopate. That's kind of, like, it's gearing up towards. I think Klein's gonna maybe somehow get involved with that. And then Derek is gonna probably have something going on here. I don't know who's gonna die. I'm really fucking scared on who's gonna die because I know that somebody always dies at the end of this, and it's not like we really met any characters who could, I guess. I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Knowing Cuttlefish, he's got something on lock. Something's gonna happen that's gonna make me cry. Something's gonna happen that's gonna make me really excited and, like, lock in, and everything else in the world is gonna be non-existent. I think the Numinous Episcopate's gonna have, like, a whole thing. I think Klein's gonna end up joining them in fighting them for some reason, or Klein's gonna, like, fight someone else. I think Amon's gonna make a show. Maybe we might get In Sangwell, and he might make an appearance at the end of it. That's kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen in these next 9 chapters, is that vibe. And I think we'll also get, like, a whole thing with, like, Derek Berg and, like, maybe Amon's going to show up where Derek is. And then Insangwell's going to show up where, like, Klein is and everything, like that. And then we'll have 2 different fights happening at the same time. And somebody's going to die. Because somebody always fucking dies. And I'm not prepared for it. And I swear to God, if it's Leonard, if the Yowie is already doomed, I will pull a Kyle and punch a hole through my drywall. Yep, I'll do it. But that's what I think is going to happen. Holding 2 iron black poles, the 2.5 meter tall, they're so fucking tall. Is that because they're all, like, it's really scary and they all might die at any moment, so they have to, like, grow tall? That's what I said at the beginning. I was like, maybe this one's happy. Maybe this is a happy ending. Maybe everybody ends up, you know, just having a happy little ending, you know? Which ancient god, king of demonic wolves, the annihilator Flagrea? Is that so? Derek remembered the chief's introduction, took a step forward, and extended his arms. Pure radiant sunlight. Pure radiant sunlight emitted from his body, illuminating... the entire collapse or rotting buildings, the grayish white stone paved streets, and an extremely silent perimeter. What the fuck? Derek and company saw figures appear on the streets. They were either wearing linen robes or animal hides, or as they thought, the busily going on about their day. Upon seeing the sunlight illumination, the silent turned their heads in unison and looked at the City of Silver expedition team. Bancy Harbor, at night, would occasionally have ravens or other birds calling out. It accentuated the gloom and deathly silence in the ruins. Even the sound of crashing waves were unable to wash away the feeling. As believers of the Lord of Storms and crew members of the Blue Avengers, the sailors were bold, especially when they believed that there might be a gold or valuable hidden within the collapsed buildings. It spurred them on, snapping away at the fear that might exist. The moment they arrived, they rushed down the ship and began searching the area in groups of 2 or 3. Algernon followed them as he strolled behind the ruins alone in search of any marks that appeared after Bancy Harbor's destruction. As he walked with him, wearing the Whip of Mind ring and having a blade of poison slung in his waist, he came to collapsed buildings and crumbled walls and a door that was only a few paces of charred wood. If I remember correctly, this is the telegraph office of the Bancy Harbor. Alger nodded slightly as he approached and did a slight inspection. He then saw the relatively empty area amidst the rubble and ground was parched black with 2 blood-red silhouettes, as though it was 2 people who had been lying there only to be squashed flat. And this had been months ago, yet the 2 streaks of blood remained fresh, as though they still contained some degree of vitality to it. Alger's forehead throbbed as he felt as though he could imagine the villainess from Bancy Harbor was destroyed. He swept his gaze and suddenly saw a picture engraved on a crumbling wall beside the 2 blood-colored figures. It was a spot that the moonlight could hardly shine onto, and the picture was very simple. It wasn't even colored. It was of an armored monster with a squid head that wielded a trident. Lightning swirled around it as the waves surged by their feet. Behind it was a cape formed by a bird feathers. Alger's eyes widened suddenly as he felt a tumultuous storm rage within him. He recognized who the monster was representing because the sun had once depicted it before. It was a warped version of the Lord of Storms according to the Rose Redemption. And could this picture appearance implied that the Rose Redemption member had previously come to Banksy Harbor and they had drawn this picture after building collapse? Otherwise, it was impossible for the mural to not be damaged. It happened to fill the abnormal crumbling wall. This should be what the world wanted me to find in Banksy Harbor. His pursuing Rose Redemption, Alger muttered silently to himself as he raised the right hand. He had planned on destroying the picture, but after some thought, he retracted his arm, circling around Banksy Harbor Form Telegraph Office as though he hadn't discovered anything. He then walked another direction. Above the endless fog in the magnificent ancient palace, the warped picture of the Lord of Storms, one of the suspected to be left behind by the Rose Redemption member, Red Angel Medici is one of the founders of the Rose Redemption. Klein sat at the high-backed chair belonging to the fool as he suddenly looked at the crimson star representing the hangman. Using his feedback, he had basically confirmed that the one possessing Insane was the Red Angel evil spirit. In the eternal silence, Klein silently sat at the seat of honor of the molten table as though he had become a deity statue. Okay. After an unknown period of time, he nodded indiscernibly and slowly exhaled. His figure vanished and returned to the real world. He continued his nap without thinking of any plans or considering anything related to Insangwell. He slept till the next morning and got out of bed. He repeated his habits over the past few days, walking to the window barefooted and drawing on the windows. On the streets outside the hotel, Donitz, who was dressed up like a West Balham native with the extra hooded cloak, held an iron black boxing glove close to his chest before rushing to the square on his right. Based on his previous report, Klein knew that he was meeting one of the local ruling factions today and understand their stance on the arms deal. Anderson didn't follow. He ruffled his parted short blonde hair in a mess as he leisurely strolled around the perimeter of the square. He sat down and wore a funny-looking puppet over his left black glove, and he began putting on a ventriloquist act for the people who walked by. The man and puppet each had different voices as they mocked each other with witty remarks. It was quite good at attracting attention. The only problem was that it was done in the Intis in language and not the Dutenese. Few people understood it, so after standing around for a moment, they walked off. Klein focused on the fog seized strongest hunter with the same expression as before. His eyes betrayed how deep in thought he was. East Balham in the temporary office for Soas Red Gloves. Cindy, with long wine-red hair, walked in with a few telegrams as she said excitedly, "New clues." "What clues?" Soas put down the white porcelain coffee mug in his hand as Leonard and Dally cast their gaze to the door. As Cindy handed them the telegram of to her captain, she said, "Emperor Roselle's quote, 'Whenever he steps, whatever he touches, whatever he leaves, even unconsciously will serve as a silent witness against him.'" Really makes sense. We found people witnessing Insangwell in several places forming a complete trajectory. From this, we realized that Insangwell's thoughts seem to be contradictory. He often approaches the colonies of Intis, staying for a short moment before leaving it. He then approaches it once again and leaves it repeatedly, as though, isn't this what Klein mentioned, that his actions are inconsistent? Leonard was delighted as he offered a better description for Cindy, as though he was oscillating. Yes, oscillating. Cindy heaved a sigh of relief and began describing the findings. In addition, Insangwell has killed a few Intis military spies and has purchased several Beyonder ingredients. It's unknown what he's trying to do. This, Leonard deliberated and said, "Which pathway Beyonder ingredients are being bought by Insangwell?" "They are from the warrior, hunter, and bard pathways." Sydney pointed at the few telegrams of the Captain Soas was reading. "Indeed, there's a hunter pathway." Having failed to find an excuse to his teammate take notice of the hunter-related clues, Leonard exhaled silently and no longer had any doubts regarding Klein's theory. He believed that it was the truth. "Next, how should I make everyone realize that Ince has been possessed by an evil spirit of the hunter pathway?" Leonard fell into deep thought. He waited until Soas finished reading the telegram. and handed it to the other teammates before he came up with something. He decided to take a risk. Before he spoke, he subconsciously glanced at Dally Simone. Dressed in a spirit medium attire, this lady lowered her hand slightly, indicating that she shouldn't be too anxious and to stop whenever he was about to attempt. Ma'am, Dally is telling me that this isn't time. Then I should wait for a better opportunity. Amidst the hesitation, he saw Dally flick the telegram in her hand and look around the room. I have an idea. What is... No fucking way. Is Dally about to take credit for this? What is it? Dally smiled. I suspect that Insang was possessed by an evil spirit! Yo. That's crazy. That's crazy. She was just... She said it just like that. She will be a suspect. Leonard jumped in fright. Without waiting for Soa, Sydney, and company to raise their doubts, Dally continued. Insangwell was once a gatekeeper, and now he's a night watcher. His body can accommodate evil spirits and use their powers. Furthermore, he also has 0-08's help. If I were him, I'd definitely try to seek out the strongest evil spirit and raise my strength as much as possible. That's crazy. You know what? Good for her. Good for her. This way, before he obtains complete control over the evil spirit, there will be backlashes. Insangwell will take action seen contradictory. This can explain what mentioned on the telegram. In addition, we both puzzled as a wave, Insangwell has been trying to contact important members of the Numinous Episcopate. We have come up with various theories, perhaps getting them to help the exorcism purifier and completely control the evil spirit is a goal. So as thought for a moment, deliberated over the words. The possibility cannot be ruled out. This is a fundamentally subjective theory of yours. How did you come up with this? Which details gave you the inspiration? Leonard became nervous as Dally chuckled. Fair. This is a woman's intuition. Also fair. It's just like how I know your thoughts as well as those of the rest of you at the times. Besides, since the discussion and analysis, we should list down the possibilities. We should then eliminate the possibilities based on actual investigations. This will aid us in finding the correct answer. Therefore, we need to let our thoughts wander. No matter how ridiculous the idea is, we must dare to propose it. From the various details we obtained from the feedback, I believe my theory is most likely one. Ma'am Dally sure is good with words. At least she has convinced me. She raised the theory of an evil spirit's possession to protect me and direct the risk towards herself. On this matter regarding Insang, she seemed willing to take on everything. W. Loving Dally. Leonard became enlightened as he felt poignant. After hearing Dally reply to Soist, nodded slightly. Indeed, this discussion we should limit our thoughts. I'm waiting for the new music. Oh my god. The possibility of an evil spirit possessing scenario is quite high. I'll report this to Her Excellency Goddess I. I'll leave to the Archbishop and high-ranking deacons and decide the subsequent investigations. After all, we know too little about 0-08. I finished. I don't have the music. There it is. Okay. Which one is it? Which one are we playing? Ooh! Oh my god, okay. So shit's about to hit the wall. So excited. So excited. No, actually. Okay, the Red Gloves team led by Soas discovered Insangwell's abnormalities from the feedback from various telegrams. Dally Simone used this opportunity to mention the assumption of an evil spirit's possession and had received a unanimous agreement. She claimed it to be the reasonable theory, but she was already in the know. She had learned from Leonard Mitchell, who was a parasite, who has a parasite, and Leonard Mitchell's informant source came from a letter sent by Renette Tinker, who could be the one who mailed it. Meanwhile, Leonard Mitchell and Dally Simone had already suspected that the evil spirit possessing Insangwell belongs to the Hunter pathway. A classic quill dabbed in black ink, writing rapidly on an ordinary notebook. Shut the fuck up. No. As though it was held by an invisible hand. Suddenly, its silent, pale hand reached out and grabbed the quill. The owner of the hand had dark, blonde hair with facial features akin to a classic sculpture. One of the eyes was so blue and it was nearly black, and the other filled with small but obvious blood vessels. Fuck. He lowered his wrist and continued writing. But is this the truth to the matter? Will everything develop according to what Dally Simone, Leonard Mitchell, and SOS Red Gloves team have in mind? In the Forsaken Land of Gods. No, because he's doing everything. Is this also writing? In Noise City, which could be illuminated by the lightning, the figure looked over without making any sound, giving Derek a fright. He nearly stopped an illumination effect as he dodged to avoid facing them directly. However, having trained from a young age and with his experience over the past years, I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. He didn't end up flustering, he didn't rush to the end, and he forcefully held back his horror and waited for the chief to give him a next order. 2 dark green, complicated symbols appeared in Colin Iliad's eyes. He took to the streets and were blanketed with faint music and seemingly normal. Okay. Figures which didn't take any action. Suddenly he grunted and genuflected, his hands grabbing 2 swords that were stabbed in the ground. At the back of his neck, his bluish-black skin swelled in little iridescent, complicated mystery symbols appeared. They were half illusory and half real as they crept into either higher or lower levels. At the same time, Shepherd Lovia let out a painful grunt as she raised her hand and held her head, vomiting some blobs of squirming flesh and blood. Her palms and her body seemed to have silver armor strangely appear overlapping the top of her. Stop. Demon Hunter Colin muttered softly before 1 second later. Derek hurriedly ended the illumination and allowed the thin mist to cloak the fingers, allowing the dead silence to once again blanket the ancient Noise City. Everything quickly returned to the former form as Colin Iliad showed. Oh my god, slowly got up. He cast his heavy gaze in towards the cathedral, the other buildings, and could barely made it out of the mist. It's a bit different from my last expedition. I'm not why there are any changes either. Demon Hunter Colin retracted his gaze and surveyed the team members. Do any of you have any ideas or thoughts? I have a couple. Shepherd Lovia has already crouched down to pick up the blobs of flesh and blood that had fallen to the ground. However, she wasn't in a rush to stuff them into her mouth. To munch on them before swallowing, she offered, "We can change direction and explore Noise City, other entrances. Perhaps we might discover something." She was maintaining her silence and kept the attitude of a spectator the entire journey. This was the first time she was voicing her thoughts and gave her point of view. Awesome. Awesome. Not loving this. Okay. Colin Iliad glanced at Lovia without giving a direct response. After he pulled out the 2 swords in the ground, he nodded and said, "Okay." No, I remembered after, the quill can only go a certain amount. I think I was just, crying. Just stressed out. It was just, genuine PTSD throughout my entire body the second I read that line. The group of 5 circled around Noise City perimeter, making a few attempts to enter, but they were frightened away by seemingly normal but silent city carrying out of the daily routines. They didn't dare to venture in. With the frequency of the lightning reduced to how darkened slowly began to rule the world, Colin took a deep breath from Noise City, a few seconds, and said, "We will first set up a small camp. We will continue when it's daytime." The so-called daytime meant the frequency of the lightning was relatively higher, keeping the moments of darkness to a minimum. The expedition team members didn't object to it. Soon, they all set up a simple camp by the riverside amidst the series of rocks. At the extreme end of the camp, there was a huge boulder providing them with shelter, so they weren't any worries about the rain. A bonfire was burning with all kinds of strange creatures, carcasses piled up from the sides. From time to time, they would be thrown in as timber. Colin, Lovia, and company sat around the fire, eating the rations they had brought and the monster corpses they had been proving to not cause serious harm. As the fat sizzled from the roasting, Chief Colin Iliad from the 6-member council looked at Derek Berg and said, "We shall inspect the camp first. We'll switch when they're done with their meals." If this weren't any other time, Derek would have had thought otherwise, but now this is the first thought that came to mind was, "The chief wishes to speak to me in private." "All right." Derek stuffed the remaining piece of meat into his mouth and lifted the Thunder God's roar at his side. The piece of meat was clearly already ready, but it still presented a ghastly green color. After confirming the dark edge of the camp, Demon Hunter Colin said in a deep voice, his tone unchanging, "Noise City is more sinister and dangerous than I expected. I'm wondering if you have any views on what we should do next. I know nothing about this place. I'm also lacking experience. Why is Chief asking me for my views?" Don't trust him. Don't trust him. Don't trust him. Derek was also taken aback, wishing to raise his left hand to scratch the back of his head. Don't do it. He then recalled a few times he had spoken with his chief while they were in the city of Silver. He recalled Mr. Hangman analyzing the hidden context of their conversation. He suddenly realized something. Chief is giving me a hint. He's trying to tell me that Noise City is more sinister and dangerous than he expected. The difficulty of hunting the shapeshifters far exceeds my expectations. He's wondering if there's a possibility of changing the target. He wishes for me to pray to Mr. Fool to receive a revelation so as to get his views. Mr. World really is a wise person. Along the way, he had already told me of a method to hunt the Bizarro Bane in a relatively easy manner. By getting its blood with the present situation, it seems like his plan is feasible. As his thoughts raced, Derek replied earnestly, "Yes, Your Excellency, I have some suggestions." Colin Iliad silently heaved a sigh of relief, holding back the more direct speech that he prepared, and nodded gently. "Go ahead." "Since Noise City has changed and it will be very risky for us to enter, perhaps we can consider luring the shapeshifter out." Derek didn't directly regurgitate the words Garrett Sparrow's method, but he did make some modifications based on the present situation. Colin didn't directly reject it. He said rather seriously, "Then how should we lure the shapeshifter?" Derek didn't hesitate to say, "I have an item that is extremely enticing to shapeshifters. As long as it is placed in the boundary of Noise City, or even further, it will lure a shapeshifter out." The grizzled Colin wasn't surprised by his words. He amiably nodded and said, "What's the item?" He long knew that Derek Berg had secretly held a bestowment ritual at the night during the guard shift duty. Furthermore, if he hadn't kept the truth undercover, it wasn't impossible for Derek to keep it from Lovia and Gonlum. Derek didn't know what its name or description was. He immediately took out the iron black box, which was completely different in the City of Silver style, before removing the wall of spirituality. Following that, he didn't lower his head. Instead, he turned the item and opened the box solely using his sense of touch. Inside the box was a palm-sized, human-shaped object. A cursory glance allowed one to see the transparent liquid filling in the inside. From time to time, it bubbled, emanating a black glow. Upon scrutinizing it, there appeared to be maggots circling around the object. This was the true soul body of the spirit world plunderer, which Klein had previously obtained. He believed that for the Bizarro Bane, the Beyonder ingredients had an unparalleled allure and wasn't simply a result of the law of Beyonder characteristic convergence, but it also became one of the Bizarro Banes obtained. It could turn the completed Bizarro Bane into a break through all kinds of limitations and receive a fundamental improvement of its life's natural order, truly becoming a demigod. Therefore, to make the hunting of the Bizarro Bane similar and clearer, without wasting any time, Klein took a risk of losing the true soul, body, and spirit world plunderer by lending it to Little Sun. Colin Iliad looked at it carefully for a few seconds before retracting his gaze. "It's likely to be effective. Close the box and stop adding a wall of spirituality to it. Just bring it around with you. Let's see if they will be attracted to our camp." "They?" Derek subconsciously asked. Colin, with a few old scars on his face, revealed a smile. "Do you think there's only one shapeshifter in Noise City? If this item's level was lacking, it wouldn't even be worried that it might attract more terrifying monsters." Derek wore a look of shame as he scratched the back of his head. Following the chief's instructions, he closed the iron black square box lid. Oh my god. Stuffing into the concealed pocket of the clothes. In the patrol that followed, he kept a high level of vigilance, but no shapeshifter attacked. After a while, Lovia, Legrier, and Gonlun took over their mission as Derek sat back beside the warm fire. At that moment, he heard cawing as 7 to 8 red-eyed ravens flew over the spiraled in midair, and brought about an iridescent sense of horror. Colin Iliad drew a sword and looked up. Suddenly his heart stirred as he quickly cast a gaze to Derek Berg. On both sides of the bonfire, 2 brown, yellowish-haired youths who had childlike looks, were nearly 1.9 meters tall, were staring at each other blankly. Colin's eyes narrowed as he immediately shouted, "Illuminate." One of the youths was taken aback. After a moment of enlightenment, pure, warm... Bye! Thanks so much for coming. Warm sunlight emanated from his body. With a whoosh, an incomplete shadow swept past the Colin sword and sliced through fake Derek. I won't stall. We're on good pace. It was a shadow, a blurry, transparent shadow. At the same time, a red-eyed raven fell from the sky. Its body swelled up, turning into a pitch-black shadow. Upon the shadow shimmered a transparent, ghostly blue single eye. Around the eye were similar eyes, but smaller. Shapeshifter. A shapeshifter that could disguise itself as ravens. Oh. Cool. Just as the pitch black shadow landed, Derek's mind turned numb as he could hardly move, as though he was being petrified. All he could do was watch the enemy pounce on him. Pa! The shapeshifter slammed into the invisible wall and failed to take a further step. Beside the bonfire, Colin Iliad stabbed the sword into his hand and ground and drew the other sword on his back. The surrounding area lit up, and like a legendary dawn, it descended upon the abandoned land. Infiltrating beams of light reminisced, and dawn erupted, turning into illusory ocean. It developed the pinch of a black shadow along the ravens and bottom up. At the entrance of the camp, the illusory knight in silver armor, standing more than 5 meters tall, appeared behind Shepherd Lovia. The knight's eyes burned into dark red flames as they instantly locked onto a spot. He suddenly opened up his stride and appeared hundreds of meters away in flash. Beams of sharp silver light shot out, dicing all of the objects around into tiny, neat pieces, including the different monsters hiding there. It included the shapeshifters that had used some of the ability to escape Demon Hunter's lethal strike, the monster that had died as it switched its true body once again, but the pure bright light of dawn descended once again, completing downing the huge area. After a light of dawn turned faint, Colin Iliad in his brown coat appeared and 2 swords in hand. He calmly watched the point of light gather above the ground, which was covered in cracks. Black red blood, which had mostly evaporated and slowly dispersed. Success. As Derek reeled into light, he hurriedly sealed the black square box and wall of spirituality. Dude, that's so fucking cool. Colin sorry I was doubting you like 2 minutes ago to Colin. I don't know, I just got really scared. Immediately stabbed the 2 swords into the ground, took out 3 metal bottles that had been emptied in their potion and filled them with the blood on the ground. While waiting for the ingredients to take form, he said in a Lovia and company unusual expression, "I have a use for these ingredients left by the shapeshifter. I wish to directly make an exchange for them." In the City of Silver, there were typically 2 ways to handle the spoils of such expeditions. First, it was to bring back and give it to the city and exchange it for the corresponding contribution points. The distribution depends on the amount of effort put in during the expedition. Second, if it was something especially important and if it had caught the fancy of a member of the expedition, they could directly make an exchange for it with equivalent items or contribution points. "I have no objections," Legrier and Gollin answered in unison. Lovia didn't say a word as the form of tacit consent. After illusory silver armor knight returned, she turned her head and looked towards the bonfire where Derek Berg was in a deadpan expression. "What's going on with Derek?" In Eastbound, the temporary office for the Red Gloves, Soa surveyed the area and said, "With the team members, Her Excellency Goddess I has ordered us to investigate the sale of the Hunter Pathway ingredients in the local and surrounding cities, as well as the disappearance of the death of the Beyonders in the same pathway." She agrees with Dally and guesses that the suspect from the death of Inta's spies, as well as the evil spirit of the Hunter Pathway. Of course, we mustn't ignore the abnormalities since it's only one possibility. There's also other things. We also need to gather information and ignore everything else. We will not delve deeper into the investigations. It's an order by Her Excellency Goddess's Eye. Got it? Yes, Cindy and company replied. Soas looked at Leonard and Dally before retracting his gaze and said heavily, "Move out." This chapter is called A Story, which, not really loving that, because I don't want nobody writing a fucking story, especially not with that quill. You know? After leaving the local Nighthawk's base, which was disguised as a private detective's office, Leonard glanced at Dally Simone, who suggested to team up with him. Where do we begin? Any suggestions? Dressed in a spirit medium black robes and her hood pulled over her head, Dally Simone, with an uncanny beauty and mature air, shot Leonard Mitchell a glance. This is when a gentleman's decisiveness and style should be showcased. Leonard looked at her left hand, which was wearing a red glove. He deliberated and said, "If we begin by following Captain Soas's arrangements, that might allow us to find some clues, but it's not necessarily useful. I suspect that Her Excellency Goddess I knows that. She's only giving us something to do in order to confuse and saying, well, why do you say that?" Dally was joking as her expression wore a rare, solemn look. Leonard glanced to his sides and he said with a heavy voice without realizing it, "Based on what I know about 0-08 has the characteristic of once you know it, it will also know you. We shouldn't be influenced while staying on the periphery of the perception since we aren't sure of how its real names or powers, or only use the code name we gave it. But as Red Gloves who are pursuing the numinous episcopate's matters, And having discussed Insangwell many times, I believe our situation has already been grasped by 0-08. This way, Insangwell should know that his abnormal state has been exposed. From that, he will avoid us by creating coincidences. Daly recalled the information regarding Insangwell and nodded. Soas has already also mentioned the problem of beginning, however. He didn't verbalize it, and clearly as you did. It's still in the stage of backwards interference from a result of failures. Therefore, Her Excellency Goddess I has gotten us to investigate the situation of a nearby district hunter pathway beyond our ingredients and protecting as though nothing is confirmed. In the meantime, Her Excellency is preparing the usage of some corresponding items to lay a trap for the moment when the evil spirit gains control over Insangwell. And thus appears. Leonard turned his body and spoke as he walked. That's probably the case, but I suspect that it's unlikely for 0-08 to know of it. Daly followed diagonally behind as she said in thought, I believe there's still a chance for success. Don't forget that one of the honorific names of the goddess of mother and concealment. That can counter 0-08. The church is a high-ranking member of the sealed artifact that can counter 0-08. It's no wonder 0-08 was once obtained by the church and sealed in the holy cathedral. Leonard's eyes lit up as he came to the realization. Daly nodded very slightly and expressed her turn soft. A few seconds later, her pupils constricted as he blurted out, Do you think our discussion has caught the attention of 0-08? How many times do you think I'm going to say 0-08 these next 6 chapters? I'm going to reckon quite a bit. Leonard's expression fell as he didn't dare to confirm anything, nor shake his head. He and Daly looked at each other, looking back and forth as they fell silent for a moment. In a particular room, the silent pale hand flipped a notebook and very first page. Then he flipped the page after another. Leaving... Does Daly or Leonard die? Is it Daly or Leonard? Is it Daly or Leonard that dies? No. Okay, is it Daly or Leonard? I'm actually not ready if that's the case. After leaving Bansi Harbor, Sauron and Horn Medici, who was obtained a certain object. No, I'm not kidding. Please. I'm not actually kidding anymore. Was no longer only stubborn or only capable of instinctive conspiring. After repeating struggles and resisting Insangwell, and he had obtained the truce and even decided on having limited cooperation effort so as to achieve each other's goals. To an evil spirit of the Red Priest pathway, such a promise cannot be guaranteed to its effect, but Insangwell no longer had that choice. From his point of view, the series of matters had been coincidence, but fundamentally this was inevitable. At the very least, Sauron and Horn Medici had many times better creating stories than him. After confirming the destination of the southern continent, East Balam, Insangwell boarded a ship to the Berserk Sea. Every time, he would enter the Intis colony islands, irrationally provoking the official Beyonders and hunting Beyonders from the Panther pathway. Then, before danger arrived, he would quickly regain lucidity, cover his tracks, and flee far away. This might seem like a coincidence, but the problem is when it's the same coincidence every time, is it too much of a coincidence? I don't like the amount of times we're using the word coincidence here. From the perspective of logic and reasons, too many coincidences imply that certain elements and rules were secret in existence. The reason why Insangwell was able to do this was because he had written the words above using the quill of Alshud. He naturally allowed himself to switch between the two states of being possessed by an evil spirit and self-autonomy, which was scheming fellow. This wasn't only directed by Insangwell, but also at Sauron and Horn Medici. They were clearly already coexisting in peace, but they acted out of conflict as though they were relying on external forces to achieve a semblance of balance. Insangwell's purchase of additional bard and warrior pathway beyond their ingredients was very reasonable. This is because he was hiding the clues that an evil spirit was using him to seek out variation items of the hunter pathway and prevent others from realizing that was under a tactical agreement disguised in his attempt to resist. In addition, the bard and the warrior pathway had the ability to resist the dead and exorcise evil spirits. As long as the clever person were to think over carefully, they would undoubtedly notice that this was a very terrifying Insangwell was being possessed. Oh my god. After numerous provocations, the Iron and Blood Cross orders Tony down to finally lock onto Insangwell and begin pursuing him. During this process, the War Bishop, who had made his goal to become a conqueror, showed off his powers without any restraint. When storm happened to stop his pursuit, he appeared on the ship, filled with ordinary people in an eye-catching manner, before pulling out the fellow disguised as Insangwell. This is a little coincidental, but it has nothing surprising. This is because the Iron and Blood Cross Order believed that the supernatural to be known to all, to be placed above the ordinary people, and Tony Down's unbridled arrogance often used his own strength to shatter the doubts of others in extremely great confidence. Therefore, the way he acted was without a problem. Likewise, he was overly confident, causing him to use negative impossibility that Insangwell was also the ship. This didn't match the intuition of a hunter, but in this world, anyone could make mistakes. When Insangwell embarked on Wayport Island, he sensed something observing him from the first-class cabin, but he didn't mind it. This was exactly the effect he wanted. Or he... Really? Okay. It was the best development if something among the passengers happened to know him. Yes, happened to. This was neither too early nor too late. Before SOS's Red Gloves took action, Insangwell met the hand of the white Tacabulus, fuck off, of the numinous episcopate's artificial death faction, hoping to obtain their help in exorcising the evil spirit. Traces of the world scribbled away. The development of things became a little odd. Before having to sacrifice sufficient amounts of clues, Leonard Mitchell and Dally Simone and the SOS Red Gloves team seemed to come to a conclusion. It apparently came from the letter sent by Renette Tinker. Where did the problem lie? Insangwell was rather puzzled by this. From the point of view, unless one could directly capture palanquy tuberculosis... Are you fucking kidding me? Or other key personnel of the numinous episcopate, no one could come up with such conclusion so quickly. This made his premonition a little hastily, but thankfully this was the outcome he wanted. The Red Gloves team led by SOS discovered Insangwell's abnormalities from the feedbacks of various telegrams. Dally Simone used the opportunity to mention the assumption of the evil spirit's possession and had received unanimous agreement. She claimed it to be a reasonable theory, but she was already in the know. She had learned it from Leonard Mitchell, who has a parasite, and Leonard Mitchell's information source came from a letter by Renette Tinker, who could be the one who mailed it. Meanwhile, Leonard Mitchell and Dally Simone had already suspected that the evil spirit possessing Insangwell belonged to the Hunter Pathway. But is this the truth to the matter? Everything will develop according to what Dally Simone, Leonard Mitchell, and the SOS Red Gloves team have in mind. After the discussion with that person in the Cathedral of Serenity, the Cathedral of Serenity's high-ranking deacon, Elia, believed Dally's theory and decided to use a grade 1 Hunter Pathway sealed artifact as bait, so as to allow Insangwell to fall into a trap while an evil spirit was possessing him. To conceal his goals, she got the SOS Red Gloves team to continue investigating the relevant clues. Motherfucker. Unfortunately, their premise was wrong. Although Insangwell was possessed by an evil spirit, his actions had never been affected. All he had done before was an act. It was done in accordance with Sauron and Horn Medici's suggestion, with the aim to confuse the Church of Evernight and make Elia blindly attack, and the Red Angel, evil spirit that was willing to help the cooperative, was enough to change the battlefield situation. Insangwell's true motive for coming to the southern continent is hunt the high-ranking deacon Elia of the Church of Evernight. It was for his advancement preparation by obtaining her beyond a characteristic. He wanted to prove to everyone that the Church of Evernight had made a foolish mistake to abandon him back then. Oh, shut up, you fucking bitch. Of course, before beginning his operation, Insangwell had first safety Sauron and Horn Medici's thirst for mid and high sequence bionic characteristics, and the Hunter Pathway to keep it a secret. He didn't plan on hunting locally. He had prepared to do further away. When the evil spirit, underlying nature, Red Angel's level, and uniqueness of a gatekeeper combined, Insangwell possessed a relatively high sequence ability of spirit world traverser of the death pathway. He was able to remote areas and return in short periods of time. He had deliberately kept this under wraps before. After satisfying Sauron and Horn Medici, Insangwell decided to first kill Dally Simone and Leonard Mitchell and pretend to vaguely sense the Church of Evernight trap. He would forcefully counter-attack only to lose his ration. No. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry if I have to see this in like 3 chapters. If I have to see this all go down in like 2-3 chapters, I'm losing my fucking mind. His rationality and head for the trap. He didn't plan on leaving the unstable elements. All Avengers and survived had to die. The notebook flipped to an empty spot on a pale white and hand grabbed the quill and added new words. Today, everything will go smoothly. No. West Ballon, Northern State. No. Cocoa City. You aren't done with your investigation, Anderson asked in boredom as he walked beside Donitz. Soon, Donitz replied as he found it a little difficult to focus. Do you have something to do? At this moment, Anderson took out a map, that stack of information. He said with a chuckle, I've already figured out the rough location. I'm stressing. The rough location of the ancient mausoleum based on the tradition of the East Ballum and West Ballum. There's definitely... Anderson didn't... didn't mean to end the new beginning. Ton of burial items. Donitz was taken aback and asked in surprise, I thought you were proficient in Dutanese. How did he gather the information? Anderson chuckled and raised his black-gloved left palm and spread his fingers and said, I don't, but I can temporarily steal the language until I finish finding the information. I knew a fellow like you would have some tricks up his sleeves, Donitz said with gritted teeth and pointed to the main street beside the square. Goodbye. Anderson didn't stop him and Smiley watched him walk away with large strides. Okay, I'm waiting to change the music. No, I don't want to... Here's the thing, it might not happen because, okay, so here's the thing. I'm thinking, because we learned of it in the book, like he wrote it in the book and that all went down, I'm thinking that it's not actually going to happen. Klein or someone, or maybe, you know how, like, Anderson isn't, like, has really bad luck? Or, like, Donitz has, but does that mean Donitz or Anderson die? Either way, I don't think I'm gonna be okay in these next... I don't think I'm gonna be okay in these next few chapters here. At this moment, the two simultaneously noticed a figure walking over. The figure had a classic quill and wore a black... No. The classic quill and wore a black clergyman robe. I'm so stressed out right now. He had a dark brown facial features akin to a classic sculpture. One of his eyes was blue and was nearly black, and the other was filled with small but obvious blood vessels. He was approaching Anderson and Donitz. Anderson didn't know the middle-aged man, but his body couldn't help but tremble as though he was facing his nemesis. Warning signs of danger flashed in his mind as his pupils rapidly dilated. No. Suddenly he heard a warm voice in his ears. Don't be nervous. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna start crying. Who? Anderson blankly turned his head and saw a figure strangely appear beside him despite not being anyone there in the first place. The figure had apparently been there all this time, but he had been ignored. He wore a strangely simple white robe, and he had a pale... Is that better? A strangely simple white robe. He had a pale gold beard and covered half his face. His light-colored eyes were clear like a child's. He had a genial and reserved look. Looking at the quill in Ensangel's hand, this middle-aged man, who was dressed like an ordinary priest, half-closed his eyes, raised his right hand, and gestured 4 points before him. Hanging there was a silver cross. What's going on? Really confused as to what's happening right now. Is it? By the music, I'm assuming this is like Amon, or this is like another angel, or this is someone who's like really important. The moment he saw the middle-aged man dressed in a priest getup, Anderson zoned out for a second. Following that, some shackles in his mind suddenly collapsed. His countless memory fragments surged through his invisible barrier. It felt like a song. Long-suppressed feelings suddenly erupted. He remembered the thing that had happened over the past month. He remembered his mission and the demigod had given him. Back in Bam, he followed... Holy shit. Back in Back in Bam, he followed his thoughts and mind to the meetup of the demigod. He followed him and let the Roast Archipelago for a secret location. There, he met the priest beside him. It was arranged for him to enter the ancient coffin and lay there among beyond our ingredients and a liquid filled with strange mixing blood, allowing them to seep in. After a month of the corrosive treatment, and dark red crystalline formed inside his body. He then had memories from his period of time sealed before him. Setting in West Balam, he was psychologically cued to not leave until he recovered his memories. This meant that he hadn't finished the demigod's mission and that it was still underway. Everything that had happened before was just preparation. What? Scenes flashed through his mind as Anderson discovered that while he was playing the harmonica on the streets, checking into the hotel with Donitz, obtaining the language comprehension charms from the Church of Knowledge and preachers, as well as arriving in Northern State, all these instincts had a general and seemingly innocent priest present beside him the entire time. When having meals, he was sitting in the neighboring table. When he checked in, the neighboring room was his. When he walked in the street, he was walking right beside him. When playing the harmonica and putting on the ventriloquist act, this man was looking at him through a genial manner. And Anderson hadn't noticed any of this back then. Donitz, who was beside him, the people around him, none of them had noticed him, as though it was like they had never seen this priest before. A chill that rose from deep inside his heart ran from the tailbone up to his spine, to his brain. He felt the experience had been through were enough to drive him insane to the point of losing control. Donitz, who had already opened up the distance from Anderson, looked at the black-robed clergyman in Zangwill, and then he looked at the simple priest who was praying with his eyes closed. He hurriedly bowed his head and used ancient Hermes to softly chant, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the gray fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck." A few days earlier, he had received Mr. Fool's revelation to handle some matters in guise and stay around Anderson. It was so that he could immediately pray if any abnormalities were to happen. Although he didn't know what would happen or who he would encounter, Donitz had always cherished his life, didn't hold back, and didn't tolerate the abnormalities and happen might very well be him being over-imaginative. For this, he had specially worn the boxing glove made from Grozel's body bionic characteristic to ensure he would act first without thinking so and not waste any time. To this point, Nzangwa had stopped walking. His dark blue, nearly black eye, an eye filled with blood vessels, reflected in the priest in simple white robes who had a cross hanging at his chest. In his mind and in his mouth, a furious voice sounded, "Adam, the Creator's son, King of Angels Adam." Before Nsango could finish his sentence, the priest opposite him opened his eyes. The light-colored eyes were already pure golden color. Suddenly, pitch-black stone columns were eradicated around them, setting up a magical cathedral. Inside the cathedral, each column, each arch, and each dome surfaced embedded with bones in different races. These were densely packed as they used different eye sockets to Sarah's and Zangwill. They surrounded in crosses as they were more than 100 meters tall. Why is he doing like a domain expansion right now? In front of the crosses, a blurry figure stood there as though he was watching everything in compassion. This was a cathedral of corpses, but instead of appearing eerie, it was filled with holiness. The walls, windows, and doors in the cathedral had transparent warped faces protruding out. It was as though the countless souls sealed inside, preventing beyonders from sensing the existence of the spirit world and astral world. The square and pedestrians from before had vanished, and they were kept outside the corpse cathedral that had suddenly appeared. In Zangwill, classic quill had already flown up as it rapidly rode on the black clergyman's road. Anderson Hood is Garin Sparrow's friend. Aurora Boreas had taken notice of him, and due to the various unknown reasons, Aurora Boreas' appearance here was a development that adhered to logic. Just as the quill wrote the exclamation point, light beams shot out from the color windows in the corpse cathedral, forming stench illusory pure feathers. Beneath the enveloping feathers, figures' long silver hair materialized in genuflecting praying stance, following that the figure stood up straight. He wore a simple linen robe and had handsome looks and soft facial features. He was none other than the King of Angels, Tail Devourer, Aurora Boreas. Bro, the whole gang is here. The whole fucking gang is here. Aurora Boreas' eyes were momentarily unfocused, but he soon reflected the genital priest's image. In his eyes, his feet, and the shackled feathers behind him, a supernatural mysterious circle had accentuated, forming an illusory river like a snake that had his head connected to its tail. The corpse cathedral once again reverted back to the point when the pitch-black stone columns eradicated from the surrounding square and still on the border of existence. Taking the opportunity, Aurora Boreas flew out. Zangwill didn't hesitate, and he made the surrounding colors saturate and overlap against each other. Just as the night watcher was about to step into the spirit world, he suddenly saw the cross spanning more than 100 meters in size, plummeting down from the sky above. This cross implemented the medium and unformed Klopp's cathedral, and blurry figures that carried out the cross raised its head. Infinite light spewed out, drowning Aurora Boreas and the quill holding Insangwell within. The corpse cathedral filled with the bones of different races, and the countless warp souls took form once again. Bro, what the fuck is going on? Upon hearing the shackle illusory pleas, Klein was inside the hotel and thinking about the daily miscellaneous matters that lampooning and bored him. He suddenly stood up and straight to the window and looked towards the nearby square. On the square, coffins were coming and going, and fountains were still spewing, and there was reverberating music. Everything seemed normal and even felt idyllic. Here, what seemed most unharmonious was Anderson genuflecting with the stiff expression while the tremendous Donnet still closing his eyes, praying without second thought. Klein followed the plans he formulated above the gray fog. He controlled Winter Enzo, who was 100 meters away, to enter the telegraph office. He had instructed Donnet to live beside the telegraph office. At the same time, he took out the adventurer's harmonica and blew into it. Renette Tinker walked out of the void with the four blonde, red-eyed heads in hand. All 8 eyes turned to look at the square. For Leonard, Miss Messenger is likely hasn't left your direct range. Klein took out the letter and already prepared the gold coin before handing it to Miss Messenger. What he said and did was akin to a marionette. He only followed the instructions he had prepared in advance. If he could help think of something else, he would immediately use cognition to divert his attention. This was a method he figured out from Will Septon and how to deal with 0-08. By doing and thinking above the gray fog, all he did was act according to the plan in the real world, and in a particular prayer from Donnet. Klein had used the scene to appear and observe Anderson, who was nearby in the end. He discovered the unfamiliar priest who had felt familiar by his side. Thinking back to the psychology alchemist and the 12 Twilight Hermit Order's hidden connection, the making of the connection of the content of the Emperor Rozel's diary, Klein immediately realized something. He was certain about what would happen next. The master of the Twilight Hermit Order, the son of the creator, angel of imagination, Adam, was conspiring to obtain 0-08. That's crazy. Bro. Okay. I need to pause for a sec. He popped up. He was just standing there, and then he, drew a little cross, and then boom, domain expansion, we have a full temple coming up. He's doing shit, he's popping everybody. Aurora Boreas comes in, and then we're getting rid of her. And then thank God Klein's like, okay, Leonard, game time, here you go, game time, Klein. Sending that shit, getting Renette Tinker, sending it to Leonard, everybody's going. That's crazy. This also means that there is a high chance for Insangwell to appear with Anderson as the target. Yeah, because Ants popped up. That's also crazy that Anderson was because back when we met Anderson, I was like, no, Anderson, that's not, I don't trust this guy. That's because he fucking had the whole thing the whole time, and that's why he was, forgetting, and he was all, messed up, and he kept having bad luck, is because, this whole thing was, leading up to this. Crazy. Crazy, 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 crazy. And Klein redid his plan above the gray fog. Pretending as though he never noticed anything, he continued his state in the marionette in reality. One of Renette Tinker's heads bit onto the letter as her 8 eyes looked deeply at Klein for 2 seconds. Klein nodded indiscernibly. Also, the fact that Adam's just always been there. I thought Amon was creepy because Amon's always been there, but Adam's also always been there. He's in the room next to each other. He's just standing there watching. That's that's weird. That's scary. Why are the 2 brothers so fucking eerie? I don't want to be around either one of them, ever. In the Kukawa telegram office, Winter Enzo handed over the telegram addressed to the Veal Gold had already prepared for the staff, urging them to send it immediately. West Balam, Northern State, Kukawa, in Sangwell has appeared. Let's go. The radio waves quickly spread, sending the message to the major base of the Church of Evernight in West Balam and East Balam. East Balam, why are you always active around the cathedral? Why don't you go further and carry out the investigation? Dally asked Leonard. Leonard thought of and said, frankly and seriously, awaiting news. Dally nodded in thought without praying further. She turned silent, no longer playing jokes on Leonard. It was as though... Yeah, no, dude, okay, now I fucking get it, because it's we've seen Adam before. Yeah, Adam's always been there. Amon and Adam have both they've just been there. They've just been there since probably day one. But now I'm wondering, do they know? Now I feel like I'm going to start getting, really paranoid, where I'm do they know what's going on? And, are we going to see Adam and, Klein communicate? Because I really just want to see, what's going on? I understand why Adam wants 0-08, and I understand he just been chilling there, and same with Amon, but Amon I feel has been doing weird shit, but I feel he's also been doing weird shit, and I feel they both have She turned silent. Dally nodded in thought without praying further. She turned silent, no longer playing jokes at Leonard. It was as though she was waiting for something else as well. Suddenly, Leonard's spiritual perception was triggered as he turned to look left. As a gatekeeper, Dally had already cast her eyes in the direction the letter had appeared at some point in time, landing underneath the glass street lamp. Leonard didn't avoid Dally's. He hurriedly picked up the envelope and opened it. The content of the letter was very simple. It was only one line of, don't fucking do that. Don't do that. Because I'm now terrified. I feel like, I know they're fictional characters, but it's just like the fact that it's just like, oh, they're just always there. West Balham, Northern State, Kukawa, Revival Square, and coordinates. Leonard's expression turned heavy as he turned to Dally and said, "Ma'am, please let me cover my tracks." As he spoke, he left the glove and turned transparent. He stuffed his right hand into his pocket and grasped the fate's siphon charm. Dally fell silent for a second and said, "Extreme seriousness, bring me along. Back then, you managed to at least fight, but I didn't have time to do anything else." Leonard's expression changed with his mouth gaped silently. Finally, without saying a word, he grabbed Dally's shoulder. The two of them vanished from a rather empty street. As he watched Miss Messenger leave, the once he confirmed the telegraph office, he had sent to the telegram. Klein immediately took 4 steps counterclockwise and entered the gray fog. He directly sat at the high back chair of the fool and beckoned for the tyrant card, the sea god scepter, and the silver. Get your shit, get prepped. Oh, we're about to see such a good fight. Oh my god, we're gonna see such a good fucking fight. Immediately, he was wearing the palpable tiara and the palpable robe, draped over him, the bow and scepter in hand. Oh, getting dripped out. Amidst his silver bolts of lightning, Klein spread his spirituality towards the point of light where Donitz was. Oh my god. Oh my god. I felt like I was like, dude, I was locked in for that. I was so locked in for that. Like, I think I blacked out for a minute there, and I was just like, I was immersed in the book to like a point that nothing else mattered. Oh my god, that was so good. I'm so shocked. I didn't think we were, okay. I didn't think we were gonna meet Adam just yet. I thought we were gonna meet him like later, you know? Okay. Chapter 942. Deity's Curse. With Klein's spiritual making contact, the points of the light suddenly expanded into the scene before his eyes. With the shadow cloaked up, Donitz was praying with his head bowed to the corner of the square, chanting the fool's honorific name in ancient Hermes. Thanks to this, Klein could see the expanded area around him and began searching for Zangwill. Through the gray fog, everything he saw was clearly different from what he had previously seen. In the middle of the square, a pitch-black corpse-embodied cathedral had appeared. At some point in time, it was dark inside, but there wasn't any signs of activity inside. Using this opportunity, Klein replied Donitz's prayer, leaving the area. Find a hidden spot to hide. Run. Get your bitch ass out of here. As he spoke, dressed in the palpable tiara and dark robes, Klein raised his left hand and made the blue gems at the tip of the bone scepter light up. Sharp drawing sounds immediately resounded in the revival square of the real world, and suddenly gales swept the area. It made the people who were spending their leisurely time there and pedestrians to leave quickly and head for a shelter from the wind. Even Anderson, whose frozen expression recovered his unusual, succinct attitude. Holding his abdomen, he quickly rushed out of the dangerous area. In a few seconds, Revival Square became extremely silent. Even the pedestrians who walked slowly without running had experienced the feeling of flying with the nudging of the wind. Their empty area entered a brief silence. Then a flame appeared from the corpse cathedral's window, and it grew in size and became increasingly blinding. Suddenly, the colored glass window shattered from blinding white light and boarded the blue shot of the meteorite. Oh! I was like, no, he's not doing this again. Out like a meteor. The flaming light instantly crumbled, materializing into Zangwill, who wore a black clergyman's robe, had one dark eye, and one eye covered in blood vessels. The moment the night watcher appeared, he couldn't help but open his mouth and scoff at the classic quill in his hand. If a fool like you didn't listen to my suggestion, how could something like this happen? I'm not even sure what you're afraid of. If you had allowed me to pray to the Lord, allowing me to secretly return to the Rose Redemption and join forces with the serpent, our premonition would allow us to set up for the trap. Today we will be ones hunting Adam, and not the other way around. The seemingly dark and damaged quill immediately flew up and rode on an empty spot on Zangwill's clothes. Due to rage stemming from embarrassment, Sauron and Horde Medici pushed the blame of his development to the quill of Azahud, but in fact, it was he who was stopping himself from praying to the true creator. Be it Sauron or Enhorn, neither of them trusted the evil god. Today's development made the evil spirit's psychological dissociation to worsen. This is extremely reasonable. This is a diagnosis by the best, most professional psychiatrist. Inns Zangwill immediately frowned as he raised his left hand and pressed it to his head. His dark blue eye rapidly recovered and lustrous as the classically sculpted face turned extremely stern. At that moment, having escaped the corpse cathedral, he was no longer facing the square. Instead, his flight and ancient stone stairs were leading his peak of the towering moment. Eradicated, there was a huge cross with countless angels spiraling around it. At this moment, an exaggerated bolt of lightning struck through the overcast sky, emitting right down in Zangwill. The sealed and strange space produced cracks. The foundation of the splashes appeared a dark blue eye. In Zangwill's figure immediately vanished, leaving behind a blurry, transparent spirit. The latter was struck by lightning and instantly obliterated. The Nightcrawler didn't watch his luxury and time, considered what was lurking dangers there were. He took this opportunity to transform to a flame and penetrated a crack and rushed out. To him, no matter what lay ahead of him, nothing was more terrifying and difficult to deal with than the son of the creator, king of angels, Adam. Upon seeing the flame rise up from the square, allowing Zangwill to escape the restraints of his illusory world and returning to his appearance of the dark blood, hair, and pale hands, Klein raised his head slightly and subconsciously sat straight. Countless scenes flashed across his mind, having his heart penetrate a pair of bright leather boots just before his previous death. No. Dunsmith was was smiling at him with a wink of his eye at the Backman Security Company, which had been reduced to ruins. The corner of his mouth quickly curled upwards as he revealed a comical smile. Then he deeply muttered something in ancient Hermes, misfortune. The silver gray charm on his left palm suddenly burst into a gloomy black glow. This was the charm of the misfortune domain Klein had made using snake and mercury, blood acceptance, blood of precious metals. By preparing the Evernight goddess, this was presented in the prepare the in Zangwill. I'm literally clutching my pearls right now. This is an era of vengeance. This is a deity's curse. Klein immediately stood up and stretched his shoulders and threw out the right arm, fusing with the gloomy black light. This was little powers he could stir from the gray fog as he threw them at In Zangwill. Just as In Zangwill returned from the revival square, he saw the dark black beam appear out of nowhere and blanketed the entire sky, making him find himself in an extremely dark environment. Such a change happened in the flash before everything was restored to normal in an instant. Nothing seemed amiss, but the Night Watcher, who could give others a certain level of bad luck, in Zangwill acutely smelled the air of danger. Without any hesitation, he reached out his left palm and bid use of an evil spirit with him and his powers of the gatekeeper and enter the spirit world to flee. However, none of the surrounding bright flowers, per white fountain, and dark black tiles and their colors saturated, much less becoming snacked. In Zangwill's spirit world, traversal had become infected. The glint in his... Is he gonna die? 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 The glint in his eyes froze as he seemed to understand the reason. It became an evil spirit that was having an internal struggle. Thus, it wouldn't let him lend their powers. See, everything would be fine if you would listen to me. Bullshit. I'd rather die than believe in the true creator. What's the point in saying all of this? Didn't you still end up at the same as us, being made into a potion by a listed tutor? So none of you were nervous at all? Didn't you notice that the curse clearly came from within a deity's aura? The power was fundamentally very power. Our present condition doesn't allow us to avoid it at all. Continue arguing. Go on. I'll wait for you to die with all of you. The veins of Zangwill's forehead throbbed when he heard that. He was furious that Sauron Medici would suddenly engage in an internal strife at such a critical moment. They didn't seem to notice the danger they were in. As a former archbishop, bro, ego's gonna kill ya. His ego's gonna get him. Arrogance. Oh my god. He didn't seem to notice the danger they were in. As a former archbishop of the Beyonder who watched over the Church of Evernight holy artifacts, In Zangwill didn't let his judgment become clouded because of his rage. He instinctively believed that the gloomy black beam that had something to do with the Evernight goddess authority over misfortune. He believed that Sauron Medici's sudden fallout was clearly a result of his influence. Otherwise, it was impossible for the Red Angel, evil spirit, to break into a quarrel without concerning themselves with the situation they were simply because of the quill of Azur Hood writing. He immediately turned around, quickly running towards another exit of the revival square in an attempt to communicate with other spirits. He wished to borrow their powers to escape. However, there wasn't a single spirit around. At this moment, a figure stood and hidden in the corner of the open square. He was mixed blood, with parents coming from Lowen and Balam. He had fleshy face and baggy clothes on a wisp on a rapier. It was Admiral Pell Ludwell. This was the marionette who usually didn't have any thoughts. After throwing out the deity's cursed charm, Klein followed his palm, returning to the real world, and made use of his two marionettes. As he made Enzo find a corner, he took out the items he prepared, set up the bestowment ritual, and controlled Admiral Hell to walk into the secluded spot and face In Zangwill. This Admiral Hell, who looked nothing like his original self, raised his right hand, allowing his arm and fingers to rapidly turn incorporeal as they extended towards the target. This was powerful, using the borrowing of the underworld creatures within him to extract the spirit bodies of others remotely. Ledwell's palm quickly turned pale, and above Insangwell, and figure floated uncontrollably. However, Insangwell was only a gatekeeper. An illusory bronze door filled and mysterious immediately took form in the eyes as quickly pulled back, escaping the spirit body. With his level of strength, and is unlikely to succeed so successfully, but for some reason he repeatedly made mistakes, nearly allowing Admiral Hell to succeed. For a brief moment, all he could manage to do was seesaw-like struggle. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. At this moment, two figures rapidly appeared beside Ludwell. One of them was the black-haired, green-eyed... Oh my god, everybody! The gang's all here. The gang's all here. The gang's all here. Leonard with a transparent glove in hand, and the other was Dally Simone, who had blue eyeshadow and blush. They arrived at the perfect moment because of bad luck and enemy often implied a one luck enough. The first thing Dally saw was a figure she could never forget. Pangs of fury burned in her eyes instantly. She didn't rashly attack as she made observations. She came to Ludwell and spread her arms. The bronze door filled with countless strange patterns, immediately descending creaked open gaps. This was the door that led to the underworld. It was the door filled with allure and undead creatures. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. An indescribable, terrifying suction force came out from it, and figure from Insangwell's body completely separated from him. It was a translucent man wearing a hooded black stained armor. It was young and handsome and had red hair. His face was terrifying, signs of decay, but the galbella was like a flag-like mark. The young man was too much of a surprise to be separated from Insangwell. Instead, he sneered. We sure are unlucky today. We still have already died together once, so this is no need for another time, especially when we're being controlled by such a weakling. The body gap appeared in the upper left cheek of his open and closed. All right, let's clear out the surrounding trash. Before the sentence was finished, the man in blood-stained black armor reached his palm and drew out an illusory sword with dark red rust stains from his body. The terrifying suppressive force easily allowed the evil spirit to free itself from Ludwell and Dally Simone's extraction. It swooped down in an attempt to return to Insangwell's body. At that moment, a hoarse voice sounded as though it had sandcloth in it. Admiral Hal Ludwell had chanted in ancient Hermes, fate! Oh my god, oh my god. The third act, the third and final act. So excited. Oh my god. Crazy. So crazy, so crazy, so crazy, so crazy, so crazy. I'm so excited. I feel like I need to breathe. I feel like I'm like not actually breathing right now. Oh my god. I don't know if I'm ready. Okay. Fate. In an awkward sounding voice, the sound of Admiral Hell. I feel like I'm not actually breathing. Also, the fact that I just read like 3 chapters in like 15 minutes because I'm just like... Sorry, I will read slower. I'm just like really excited. Fate. In the awakening sound voice, the spirit of Admiral Hal Ludwell, a night watcher in Sangwell. Oh my god, I only have 3 chapters left. No, I literally understand everything that was happening. Like, I'm just like really fucking excited. I'm like, okay, this was one of the, in the awkward sounding voice, the spot where Admiral Hal Ludwell and Night Watcher in Sangwell stood turned dark as they covered the 2 black clouds. Fate Siphon Charm. This is one of the Fate Siphon Charms that Klein had made using the Worms of Time from Palace Zoras. This made the plans without 0-08's knowledge. He had kept himself hidden behind the scent of entire time. Not only had he lent creeping hunger to Leonard Mitchell, he had also given the Fate Siphon Charm to the marionette. Hence, this was the one who possessed the evil spirit had gone from Insangwell to Ludwell. Admiral Fell instantly had Sauron and Horn Medici's blood-stained black armor plunged into... As his eye became filled with the minute blood vessels. Inside the hotel, Klein calmly controlled his marionette without showing any warning or hesitation due to the impact of the evil spirit had. Ludwell reached out and tear his clothes and raised his soul-soothing mask to cover his fate. At the same time, having heard the red angel's sword and witnessing his actual condition, Dally Simone, who had suffered immense pressure, seemed to realize something. Not only did she close the door to the underworld, she also gritted her teeth and used all her might to widen the gap. Crazy. Blood, skinless arms, slimy tentacles, and teeth, and bluish-black veins from a baby face began emerging from the door of the underworld and grabbed Ludwell. They freed up Admiral Hell, who was planning on completing the step alone, taking advantage of the opportunity that the underworld within his body had yet to be destroyed by Sauron and Horn Medici. With the only negative effects on his body being decaying, he hurriedly turned around and dashed towards the mysterious illusory bronze door. He was then grabbed by his body and legs and the arm, tentacle, veins, and spirit behind his door. He was running, working his hands, and the sculpting, tingling tugs. He instantly leapt through the window, widened door gap, and entered the underworld. Upon seeing this, Dally immediately pulled her palms and stopped maintaining the mysterious patterned bronze door. Thud. The indiscernible, illusory door heavily Admiral Hal Ludwell, along with Sauron and Horn-Medici, were kept into the real world and the underworld creatures. This was a key step to Klein's plan. It was forcibly separated from the Red Angel evil spirit Ince Zangwell. Although he believed that the Red Angel evil spirit was the reason for Ince Zangwell's inability, he wasn't willing to face an additional evil spirit formed after the death of one king of angels and two sequence angels when he revenge of the demigod. Not one could predict the actions of a conspirer would take under such circumstances. Therefore, Klein used the basis of magical powers of fate, siphon, charm, and Ludwell pathway characteristics to formulate a plan. In addition to Dally had allowed the entire process to happen more smoothly, there wasn't any room for being interrupted, as they successfully pulled the Red Angel spirit into the underworld. This way, even if the evil spirit was to be able to possess Admiral Hal's body and travel back to the real world via spirit world traversal, it would be far into the future. After all, to leave the underworld required them to find an exit, and with the Evernight goddess wielding control over the artificial death, she had certain level of authority in the underworld. She was definitely not letting the Red Angel's evil spirit leave so early, sacrificing a marionette, the high-level charm, and two mythical items in exchange for removing the Red Angel's evil spirit was a battlefield with heart-wrenching for Klein to be definitely worth it. As for the misfortune on Ince Zangwell, on one hand was continuous state. Oh my god. And not a short-term affection. On the other hand, he had suffered from deity's curse and fate, siphon, charm, what could only replace a tiny portion of that and not empty it out. He could soon recover as Ludwell. He had Winter Enzo imbuing him with good luck. Nothing would stop the series of actions for a short period of time. Such as a change was completely unexpected for Leonard. However, he had become the Red Glove for almost a year. He had plenty of experiences dealing with supernatural cases, so he didn't show any hesitation or confusion. He immediately cast out the gaze and still dazed in Zangwell. When the figure of the black clergyman robe was with him, dim eye reflected his eyes and expression immediately warped, as though he was facing a trauma of his own. It was the trauma where he did his best and failed to put it to use. It was the trauma of seeing Captain and Klein already dead after regaining consciousness! As Leonard raised his palm, he pressed the human skin glove to the temple and grasped the fate siphon charm in his right hand tightly. With a deep voice, he said, "Fate." The ancient supernatural language echoed in transparent book condensed in front of his left glove. Following that, there was an ethereal chant of "I came, I saw, I recorded." Bolts of bright, blinding silver lightning blasted down one after another as they instantly devoured Leonard. Lightning storm. This was akin to Leonard's holding a revolver in his temple before pulling the trigger. He was committing suicide. But at the same time, he was using fate siphon charms. This would transfer such a fate to Ince Zangwell. I'm so fucking scared. This was the best solution he could think of when using fate's siphon charm and creeping hunger. It required immense courage. Countless silver lightning swept over, shattering surrounding darkness. Leonard Mitchell immediately snapped awake and found himself standing still in his spot. His left hand had yet to rise, and his right hand had just grabbed fate's siphon charm. Whatever he did was just a dream. At this moment, in Ince Zangwell's dark blue eyes, darkness was slowly swirling as though it was saying, "When did you get the misconception that you aren't dreaming?" In fact, long before Sauron and Horn-Medici had been extracted from his body, he had already created a large-scale dream in an attempt to put all of his enemies in. Unfortunately, the man with a rapier was no way affected. He easily escaped and ended up destroying the dream, reducing the effects to nothing. As the ability to direct danger with the gained from one spiritual perception feedback was obvious, with the possibility perception feedback was obvious, and the possibility of conflict between two kings of the angels behind him spilling over in a moment. Klein Ince Zangwell didn't hesitate to create a large-scale slumber. Effective pulling Dally Simone and Leonard Mitchell into a dream. Right on the heels of that, he picked up Quill of Alzahud and rapidly wore it on his sleeve. Ince Zangwell was in optimal condition today. He could effectively control his mystical creature form. Therefore, he didn't hold back and use all of his strength to escape the area. As he finished writing the scene with the quill, Ince Zangwell's body began transforming. Fuck. His eyes instantly turned black as though it was tainted with ink. The fine patterns around him began to extend, forming strange and disoriented mysterious symbols. At the waist and ribs, the clothes swelled. 4 skinless arms grew out from squirming flesh as they were covered with blood vessels. This arm was rapidly covered in white feathers as the cadaveric aura rippled out. At the same time, Insangwal's teeth grew long, turning sharp. His body seemed to be embedded with numerous blurries of tiny faces. In a blink of an eye, the Night Watcher was already slumped on the ground, turning into a strange monster with 8 legs and white feathers. Night suddenly fell upon them. Square, as worms in the soil and bacteria on the floor tiles died one after another, entering an eternal slumber. This was the combination of the powers of Evernight and Death. Oh my god, okay. Just as Dally Simone and Leonard Mitchell were about to lose their lives amidst their slumber, a thunderclap boom. Bolts of silver lightning struck down, turning into forests of lightning that blanketed Insangwal's incomplete mythical creature form. After sending away the Red Angel evil spirit, Klein didn't stay any longer. Like a marionette with present orders, he mechanically took 4 steps counterclockwise and entered above the great fog, wearing the palpable tiara and palpable robe again. He picked up the sea god scepter. This was the 3rd act of the play. Yes, it was. With 0-08 exhausted by Adam, and with the Red Angel evil spirit separated from Insangwal thanks to the Fate Siphon charm, he had to face the sea god's wrath as a sequence 4. Klein knew that he didn't have the strength to directly fight a demigod, therefore his plan had been to wear off Insangwal's helpers while smiting him from above the grey fog. Okay, it was akin to the sea battle with the demigod Conus Kilgore, who was from the Black Emperor pathway back then. Even if he couldn't complete the kill due to the demigod's potency, he could stall for a time until the Church of Evernights Archbishop and high-ranking deacons with sealed artifact arrived. In this plan, there was 2 uncontrollable parameters. First, it was unpredictable how much influence 0-08 had towards the end. A card up his sleeve was to let Enzo set up a bestowment ritual and prepare to send Grozel's travels to the real world at any time. By sending it to the edge of the battle, Klein wanted to know if this was the lure the quill away from Insangwal. After all, he guessed that the quill was a grade 0 sealed artifact of the spectator pathway. It was likely that it was interested in the special book left behind by the Dragon of Imagination. Oh my god. Second, he wasn't sure how strong the son of the creator Adam was. Klein had no reference point, and he believed that it was impossible for the King of Angels like him to subdue 0-08, imprison the Red Angel spirit, and kill Insangwal alone. Towards such a development, Klein had no means to foil it. All he could do was pray to the goddess's blessing of the fate tenderness as he waited for the outcome. Rumble. The lightning force smote down, bringing with it intense destructive auras. At this moment, pure darkness surged out of the gaps, and the lightning devoured all the silver white spray. Right on the heels of that, Insangwal's 8 legs moved rapidly as they ran across the area. He couldn't find a target for attack, nor could he lock onto an enemy that had cast lightning storms. Holding back his furious emotions, he ran towards the building along the perimeter of the square, leaving shadowy after images behind. However, amidst booming thunder, terrifying lightning bolts smote down one after another, tapping Insangwal inside the square. Dally and Leonard had already woken up from their dreams, but the light from the lightning affected their vision, allowing them to discover that Insangwal had apparently turned into a monster, but the details were unclear. Mythical creature form. As the 2 of the solid foundations of mythicism, they immediately realized that this was happening and quickly closed their eyes. They were then retreated to the spots that provided them shelter. Realizing that this was unable to dodge the lightning strike given the amount of time they had, Insangwal retracted one of his legs, picked up 0-08 as he ran. He wrote on his body, an unknown existence is attracted to the combat and feels a great pity for Insangwal's experience before deciding to help him by taking him away via the spirit world. Oh my god. We're in the 4th act. 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 Okay. On the heavy scuffed damage revival square, the environment turned dark, and gloominess and eeriness filled the corporal manner. Even the blinding silver lightning wasn't able to dispel the feeling. Dally Simone acutely sensed the unknown creature was crossing the spirit world and approaching. An ominous feeling rose up in her as though she couldn't escape seeing Insangwal at such an accident to eerily escape, never to be found. She felt ice cold in a manner that couldn't be resisted, just like when she was first becoming Beyonder. Back then, due to the particular accident of a 19-year-old, she had lost her family and ended up drinking the potion by mistake. Dally, no! She ended up becoming a corpse collector and was placed in the Nighthawks team. That's how she became a Beyonder? The influence of the portion of the wounds from losing her family and made her enjoy gloominess and coldness. She couldn't help but approach corpses, often loitering in cemeteries and sleeping there. This made... Oh, no. Pause. Why are we getting Dali backstory? Pause, 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 pause. Why are we getting Dali backstory? No, why are we getting Dali backstory? This made her appear old, with people instinctively avoiding her. This has not only dropped her body temperature, but also slowly froze her heart and soul as they turned ice cold. She was afraid of this feeling. She still hoped to live as a person, hence she instinctively used the men converted her for her looks and body to gain a boyfriend. She wanted to use... No, I'm so scared. Wraith her body to stop her soul from turning cold. In the descent of surreal life, she met a man who was always warmly listened to her. He was a man who always stayed by her side and provided her help. He was a man who became embarrassed when faced with jokes involving the two sexes. He was a man who accepted all flaws and weaknesses of teammates and sincere attitudes. He was a man who fumbled in helplessness as she jested at him again and again. He was a man who hid the pain and sorrow in his heart to the point of suffering an early receding hairline. Oh no! He was a man who was the first to step forward when encountering danger, putting himself in between the danger of his teammates. She changed. She began putting on makeup and made her appear older. She stopped mixing with other men, but kept her jokes to deliberately express that she hadn't changed her obvious manner. However, she still didn't make it in time. She didn't manage to witness the man's master the acting method, digest potion, and advance to sequence 6. She didn't manage to see him reach out his hand to invite her to an opening dance or be able to participate in the final battle. She didn't manage to tell him her feelings in time. I was wrong. I failed to do anything in time. Today, I'm not having to repeat it again. Dali's expression turned sorrowful, and the corners of her lips curled bit by bit with tenderness and sweetness. With her eyes closed, she suddenly pulled out a small metal bottle hidden in a compartment. She threw the stopper and gulped the liquid inside. Her blue eyeshadow and blush instantly turned brightened, and even her skin turned slightly translucent. Her coiled up hair instantly released, pushing her black hood as she fluttered. No, spirit wandering the void, higher order creature that leave one with awe, the unforeseeable creature. Dali chanted with a simple and forceful ancient Hermes. I shall sign the contract with you in my name. Pray that you leave this place. Behind the eight-legged with white feathers insane, while a figure appeared. It was blood-colored piece of flesh that countless eyes on it and arms in different races. Just as it was about to grab Insane while it dragged him into the spirit world, it suddenly paused. It then turned a gaze towards Dali Simone. Pitch black, snake-like scales instantly appeared on Dali's skin, and within the gaps of the scales, white feathers grew. Her knees buckled as she knelt down in pain, but she immediately maintained her spirit-channeling posture. The quill began writing autonomously on Insangwell's body. The unknown existence descended upon Revival Square, and it was just about to take Insangwell away, but no, it was attracted by Dali Simone. It sensed the aesthetics was inclined towards humans. Oh no, it abandoned Insangwell. It decided on listening to Dali Simone's suggestion and ended up leaving. How surprising that when it came to spirit channeling, Insangwell, a demigod, would actually lose to a sequence 5 Dali Simone. Although this lady had consumed the flower spirit and paid an immense price, she had little chance of defeating Insangwell, who was barely using the quill of Alzahud. Insangwell was just too unlucky. He actually encountered a matter with nearly 0 probability. Amidst the lightning strikes, blood-red beams lit up Insangwell's pitch-black eyes, and they were covered with mysterious symbols before calming down his hand, which, had the quill, wrote on his body once again. Then their unknown existence was lured by the vicinity and attempting to enter the real world. Just as he wrote that, the quill suddenly paused as it continued writing. Incoming, it's no, she was Renette Tinker, yes! But no, Renette Tinker chased away the surrounding creatures in the spirit world. She gave Insangwell a glance, looked away, and left, continuing her patrol of the surroundings. Insangwell was too unlucky, just too unlucky. Insangwell, I fucking love it. Insangwell's rapidly moving body suddenly paused as he thought, and he suffered a terrible blow. The thick bolt of lightning smote the 8-legged monster and sent Insangwell flying as he let out an inhumane cry. In her pitch-black eyes, the blood-red beam spewed out like an explosion, turning the two bloodthirsty, cruel, mechanical blobs of light. Insangwell could no longer control his emotions and maintain a good state of mind, he lost most of his reason. The more a slightly damaged quill wrote, the darker it became until it slowly stopped. With a scream, the last one goosebumps of the endless darkness blanketed air, pulling Dally Simone and Leonard Mitchell into a dream. However, the thunder booms and lightning snapped and dreams awake, and Zangwill took a step back as 8 legs, leaving behind an afterimage of the spot. He rapidly ran towards Dally Simone, who was on the brink of losing control, hoping to rip apart the Nighthawk who had foiled his plans for escaping. Ridiculous bolts of lightning blasted down, stopping his attempt to escape. The 8 legs that were covered with the white feathers, which now had signs of being charred, moved one after another as they kept his body low while he circled the square, dodging the lightning in search for an opportunity to kill Leonard and Dally. No. With time, he realized that there was a problem with the remaining reason that he had. He frequently of the lightning was dropping. The person that kept casting lightning strike had appeared reached his limit. His spirituality was almost drained. Zangwill's heart stirred, and a cruel smile was plastered across his face. He ran at all high speeds and muttered in ancient Vasak, "All of you will die." He had apparently forgotten his need to escape. All of you will... You know, like in the volume 1 where it's like everyone will die, including me? Leonard Mitchell could do nothing despite hearing the sentence. It was because he couldn't even open his eyes. He couldn't determine where Zangwill was, nor use his spirituality to lock him up. At that moment, he felt as he returned to Tingen back in Backland. Oh my god, Blackthorn Security Company, back in the day, where the exaggerated Magos, in the intense battle, he had returned to the time when he was weak and helpless, unable to stop anything. Back then, he clearly wanted to help Captain Incline, despite overcoming his horrors. Despite having Old Man to provide him with help, he quickly fainted due to his low sequence and lacking strength. No, I'm so scared. Thus failing to participate in the secret battle, all he could do was wake up and see 2 corpses in a pain of meeting familiar members, and resolve the blame he placed on himself. He always cherished his leisurely life in Tingen City, the feeling of not needing to take responsibilities if the protagonist, however, more cherished those memories, the more he hated his former self, wondering why I'm actually gonna fucking cry. With his life tightly closed, fingers and lightly were darting around as all he could do was Nabal was handing into a fish and hurriedly shouted, "Old man, old man." This time there wasn't any response. In his mind, no one provided him any help. His pal Zoras was still in a deep sleep. Leonard's breathing turned heavy as he continued, "Help," but moved his head from the side, and I'm like so anxious right now. With darting of the light, there was a slightly hoarse voice that shouted in clear anxiety, "Old man, old man, old man." His voice gradually softened down by the thunder. Leonard hung his head bit by bit, his face filled with shame and pain. His lips quivered as he relaxed his hands and gripped his thigh tight. It gripped it tight again. His entire body froze for several seconds. Suddenly, he wore a firm expression with a grimace. He opened his mouth and chanted softly in ancient Hermes, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the great fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck." Just as he said the prayer, he magically saw a scene in his mind. Zangwill, who had seemingly turned into a spider or some deformed, feathered wolf, was running frantically. He dodged the lightning strikes from time to time. He attempted to attack him and Dally Simone, and unlike normal, Zangwill's figure reappeared, rather blurring the scene. It almost completely represented the right light, and it could only be used determining his location. Leonard was first taken aback as he immediately laughed. Teardrops slowed down as he laughed. Without any hesitation, he raised his left palm, pressed his glove to his temple, and then lightly gripped the fate siphon charm in his right hand. Fate. The incomprehensible, mysterious word in ancient Hermes resounded, and a transparent book appeared in front of Leonard. It flipped to the page amidst the ethereal chanting of "I came, I saw," recorded, and he locked onto the 8-legged monster with a white feather glowing over him. The silver bolts of lightning blasted as Leonard Mitchell threw out the charm, and hideous expression shouted, "Die in Zangwill." He had waited to say this for a very, very long time. He had played the scene in his head so many times. Oh my god. I'm so unwell. Okay. Last two chapters. The moment the fate siphon charm left Leonard Mitchell's hand and vanished into midair, its whereabouts unknown. Its cloaked the spots where he and Nsangwell stood in darkness, even the begrudging silver storm and unable to illuminate it. In an instant, Leonard felt the surface of his body turn numb, as though lightning was leaping over it, creating a stabbing pain, and one of them completed pulverized his body at any moment. But following that, he didn't get bombarded with irresistible pain as though nothing had happened. No, something did happen. A bolt of lightning smote down at him as if he was barred his fangs, shattering the ground and charring the soil. Klein had personally redirected his cast of lightning storm in Nsangwell when Leonard Mitchell used Fate Siphon Charm. The shrill scream sounded as the rich darkness around Nsangwell failed to dissipate the storm and was formed with a mesh of silver lightning bolts. His body was swept into the heart of the storm. He was suffered in the fate of Leonard Mitchell being devoured by the lightning storm ability. The thunder boomed deeply as the lightning force quickly dissipated, but before the lightning storm came to a complete end, more bolts of lightning smote down from the sky, causing new waves of attack. The wraith of the thunder god smote down again and again, and the lightning frequency returned to normal. There was any gaps in between. Even though there were waves of darkness surging up from Nsangwell's position, they were unable to obtain the silver swathe. After a few lightning storms of blinding light finally dimmed and the miniature bolts snake around weakly, Nsangwell repeated standing. Weakly, Nsangwell remained standing there without collapsing. However, his head was a pitch black blood, mysterious symbols had cracked. The flesh inside the cracks were charred black with grayish-white liquid scaped out. The 4 legs of the torso had already been burnt black and crawled up together. Look at what touched them for it to fall off. On them, not only were the white feathers gone, even the overlapping blood vessels and pulverized his head scattered to the ground, leaving them in the head height on him. But even so, Nsangwell was still dead. Creatures that obtained godhood was unimaginably vital compared to the ordinary people. The blood-red halo in his eyes grew richer and violent, aura no longer in any room for decreasing. Feelings that hatred and regret surged in him, giving him the urge to vent it out. He hated himself for not only escaping the being of not killing the enemies present. Back then, he had held back and had used his powers by reserving. He was definitely able to kill Dally Simone and Leonard Mitchell amidst the lightning strikes. If he had done so, he would have been able to left in such a sorry state by 2 mid-sequence beyonders. Damn it, Nsangwell roared and threw away the darkened 0-08 quill. Using his remaining 4 legs, he pounced at Leonard Mitchell. Leonard was just about to take action when he felt a coldness in him. It was as though thin, long hair was reaching out behind, binding him from the darkness, doing so from a dream. He was unable to move again. The bolt of lightning struck Nsangwell, but it only severed to stagger him for a moment and drop a few pieces of charred flesh. He continued to attack and even revealed a cruel smile. From the strike, he was already certain that the person hiding in the background casting the light was at their limit. The person was unable to use any more demigod-level powers. As for Leonard, who was being bound by countless strands of invisible hair, his thoughts quickly became serene, as though he had no longer put up any resistance and was wishing to sleep in the darkness. Unable to move, he bit his tongue lightly and temporarily covered some of his lucidity. He made a transparent book in front of him amid ethereal chanting, "I came, I saw, I recorded." With the resounding whoosh and terrifying hurricane swept at Nsangwell, who had arrived in a pounce. It snapped the illusory black hair-like objects, giving Leonard freedom again. Nsangwell was thrown up and slammed heavy to the ground. His body was covered in deep gashes as his white pale blood gushed out of him. Despite having lost another front leg, he was still dead. He stood up again and locked onto the Evernight poet, who still had his eyes closed. Without any warning, Leonard suddenly slipped and fell to the ground. When he tried to get up, he seemed unable to maintain his balance. Even the gale he created had fell to sweep up his body. "Damn it, I should have killed you when you were unconscious back in Tingeon City." Nsangwell cursed through his clenched teeth. "That woman is about to die. The same goes for you." As he cursed, he hobbled over to Leonard's location, and he thought of a loss of ability to move a rapid speeds. With a ferocious expression, he said, "Your captain was irritating, likewise for the teammate of yours. All of you are the same. After I kill you, I'll leave this place and return to Tingeon and dig up their graves." As he cursed, the darkness filled the cavernous area, surged out of Nsangwell, sweeping towards the nearby Leonard Mitchell. Leonard could sense that it was a riddle with bad luck, but he could do nothing. He didn't even dare to open his eyes. Amidst the gunshot, a pale golden bullet pierced through the thick, deathly dark and bringing out a blinding sunlight, terminating the abnormality within. Tarot cards flew all over, stabbing the ground in different spots. One of the cards landed in front of Leonard and it burst into scarlet flames. Amidst the flames, the figure wearing the top hat and black suit walked out with a revolver in hand. With a bookish demeanor, he had black hair and brown eyes and a face With a deep outline, he was none other than Klein Moretti. Unable to use Seagod's scepter anymore, he had decisively returned to the real world. He had rushed here with death knell. It's really you really are still alive. Die together with them. Insangwell's movement speed instinctively recovered and circled around Klein, trying to forcibly pull him into a dream. He had been acting, however, Klein was completely unaffected. He didn't show any signs of falling asleep, and he raised his right hand and pulled the trigger as though he had foreseen it. Insangwell was thrown to the ground by a powerful impact. The cracks of his head widened. The shot from Madame Dally, Klein said in a deep voice as he snapped his fingers using the flames that burst and flashed in the side of Insangwell. Insangwell's eyes protruded out as he moved to the high speed and released bad luck in a bid to influence Klein, but was completely useless. This shot is for Leonard. At the tarot clubs were ignited with the same time, like blasting fireworks. Klein flashed behind Insangwell's cocked gun and relied on intuition. He pulled the trigger. Pale white blood spewed out of Insangwell's left leg as it broke. His running came to an abrupt stop as he even failed to maintain his balance. Using the burning tarot clubs, he repeatedly cast Flaming Jump, preventing himself from entering influence in the black hair. This shot is for Magos. This shot is for the Keepers. This shot is to destroy Blackthorn Security Company. This shot is for the Nighthawk. And this shot is for me. Amidst the gunshots, Klein kept pulling the trigger and did a corresponding reload as he shot demon-hunting bullets. He blew through another Insangwell's leg, blasting open the forehead, causing a roar to turn into a whimper until he fell into the ground. Finally, Klein flashed in front of Insangwell. He then held death knell to his face. At this moment, mysterious patterns accumulated in Insangwell on his cracked head, creating an immense impact. He still had the ability to resist. He was waiting for him to approach, and then he used his mythical creature form to turn the tables. However, Klein's brown eyes continued looking at him without reflecting anything. He thrust down the knell forward and pulled the trigger. Bang! Insangwell's head completely exploded, and like a smashed watermelon, the fragments of juice splattered everywhere. Death knell had sounded to the knell for him. Klein raised his hand and rubbed away two real eyes that hidden beneath and moved back to their original spot. His brown eyes had blurred up. He curled the corners of his mouth bit by bit and said the already dead Insangwell softly. This shot is for Captain. He didn't give Insangwell a chance to leave any last words. He had no wish and to know what better. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's so good. It's so good. Why is it glitching? Why is it glitching? Why is it glitching? Why is it glitching? Come back, please. Okay. No chance. He had no wish to know a better later experience. He then took out the remaining tarot card from his pocket and threw it in Insangwell's corpse. It was the inverted star card. At this moment, the figure appeared not far from him. He bent down and picked up the deck and twill. The figure wore a simple white robe and had a pale golden beard that covered half his face. On his chest hung a silver cross, and though he was the most ordinary priest, but he was the king of angels, Adam. Adam looked at Klein and said with a smile, "Unfortunately, I failed to retain the snake." He looked at the quill in his hand and then the tarot card and smiled at it. "A price is always extracted for what fate bestows. Isn't that so?" With that said, he turned around and slowly disappeared from the... He just shows up and then he just dips. Sorry, I have questions. He turned around and slowly disappeared from the ruined square. In each step, he left the following words as though he said, "Under the witness of the spectator, Klein Moretti completed the grand performance, directing a magical murder. With that, he managed to digest his potion with enough energy left to attempt an advancement before the curtain fell. Klein didn't take the feeling of the marionette's potion digestion and corresponding feedback with Flaming Jump. He arrived in front of Dally Simone. The lady was already on the brink of losing control. She said in a daze, "I don't want to become a monster." "All right." Klein looked at her with a sorrowful gaze, and he quickly thought of a means to rescue the rampager. He had considered getting her to chant the fool's honorific name before pulling her spirit body away from the gray fog, but with her body still mutating, it was apparently useless. The only way for Dally to choose to remain there forever was as a flower of blood. Oh my god, oh my god. I'm changing it. Oh my god, I'm changing it. Oh my god, I'm changing it. I'm changing it. Don't worry. No. Stream's over. Thanks guys so much for coming. We're not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not going from what I just felt, the high I was just on, to the low that this is about to give me. you can actually get fucked. So. Oh my god, okay. With her body already mutating in a... I don't want to do this. With her body... Dally smiled with great difficulty. She resisted the white feathers and pitch black scales that kept growing out of her. So it's you. Didn't you ask me why I didn't take the initiative to confess to Dunn, to throw him in bed? She gasped for air and said with a bitter smile, I had indulged myself too much in the past. He was a conservative man. I felt inferior. I'm about to cry already. And yeah, I am still on my period, so I'm like really not about to be okay. Like, I'm really not gonna be okay. She gasped for air and said with a bitter smile, I had indulged myself too much in the past, and he was a conservative man. I felt inferior. She couldn't hold out much longer with the outcomes of her being a monster happening at any moment. At this moment, she heard Klein Moretti reply, Captain actually liked you too very much. Because you were too upstanding and young, he felt inferior as well. Dally smiled as her blurry gaze saw a man in a black I fucking knew that I was gonna die. Hate this. A gray-eyed man in a black trench coat with a receding hairline. He had dark gray eyes. She watched him as he his hand to her chest, bent down and reached out his palm and pointed at this. She reached out her hand and reached the sluggish, the gray-eyed man. Like trench coat pulled Dally, whose mutation was slowly fading away. Under Leonard's watchful, they danced. I literally can't fucking read this right now. Spewing water everywhere, one after another flew out. There were golden grapevines and another ugly rubber mask. Under guidance of spirituality, they slowly mixed together and entered a small metal bottle. Amidst the beautiful dance, Dally leaned forward and gently rested. And gently rested herself in Dunn's embrace. Klein had a potion bottle brought to his mouth and downed it. I don't want to do this. I'd say it's a curse. And the ice-cold potion slid down his throat, bringing Clyde numbness once he reached deep into his soul. He had already stopped. He had already stopped dancing. His mind seemed to be lifted through. He was high in the air, looking down at the ruined Revival Square at Kagawa City, which had been left in shambles by the repeated lightning strikes. At this moment, he felt his emotions rose up for some baffling reason, as all the pedestrians below seemed to be connected to him by some invisible thread. They could be happy, angry, or sad, making all kinds of actions based on the direction. Klein often had such feelings. I don't want to change the music. Actually, I do want to change the music. I don't want to do this anymore. Klein often had such feelings. Recently, he knew that this was the version of a director. By viewing all participants of the marionette as her actions, he attempted to control the guide into putting the grand performance. Using a hint of familiarity, Klein hurriedly adjusted his state of mind, completely separating his emotions from it and viewing everything in a cold, aloof manner, as to prevent himself from being affected by the play. As a director, he followed the script, referred to reality and rational made by analysis to choose according to the circumstances. He allowed emotions to build up, allowing himself to push matters forward and use the clues he had developed. Once the state of mind settled, he felt potions powers spread across his body like sharps. I can't believe Charlie just fucking died. Once the state of mind settled, he felt the potion's power spread across his body like a sharp, threaded needle. Suddenly, Klein felt his soul body was connected to his physical body, and they were split into countless parts. Without being able to hold it any longer, he let out a cry from deep within his soul. No. His thoughts were diced apart. No, I don't want to talk about it. He's still holding her. I'm well aware. They're still fucking there. His thoughts were diced apart, turning into fragments as they fused with different pieces. The flesh they These included Klein with pain, Klein in arrogance, Klein in coldness, Klein in gentleness, Klein who could amusement himself as well as Zhao Mingiri, Sherlock Moriarty, Garamond Sparrow, and Dwayne Dantes. His entire spirit body seemed to be thrown into the grinding machine. Not far away, Leonard, whose cheeks were streaming with unconscious tears, first saw Captain Dunn, who was embracing Dally Simone, transformed back into Klein Moretti. Following that, he noticed his face, neck, and the back of his head, pale-colored tendrils protruding out as though they had life of their own. They kept growing outwards, turning into transparent maggots, and beneath his clothes were also signs of squirming. This made Leonard have the feeling that Klein would collapse into a cluster of transparent maggots the next second as they raced in different directions. Just as he wanted to do something, he felt dizzy. He instinctively closed his eyes and didn't dare to keep watching. The transparent maggots that grew out of Klein's body shimmered under the sunlight, producing three-dimensional layers of mysterious symbols. They connected to higher and lower levels, directly presenting the abstract concept of bizarreness, madness, change, strength, and wisdom. Amidst howling cold winds, black illusory thread rose around Klein as they bonded together, forming strange tentacles. The tentacles filled as his soul body, astral projection, body of heart and mind, and ethereal blood were reduced to fragments that fused with the different maggots that represented Klein's various thoughts, turmoil, and dilemmas as they wafted by them gently and seemed to fly to the infinite height where they were countless illusory hugging high distorted buildings. They were either playing with instruments, giving speeches, growing, or ravings. Amidst Klein's countless chaotic scenes, everything around him stacked together as though they turned into spirit worlds. However, they were living people, coming and going in the stars shining above them. Upon this moment, the fragments filled with thoughts as he had similar appeared flesh memories. At the King of Angels, Adam praying as his eyes closed in the scenes of shocking appearances. It was him using death knell against Insangwell as he pulled the trigger to blast open his head. It was when he revealed the clown smile, saying in a deep voice, "This shot is for Captain." It was when spectator Adam used an extremely clear and innocent eye to take the ending of the performance. It was him turning into Dunsmith. It was him turn. It Simone to dance for a closing dance. Are you fucking kidding me right now? What the fuck is that? There were also friends on his mind, especially in the case of the spectator. There was seemingly horrible feedback. Like magnetic forces that made Clyde's heart so sorry to everybody with an earphone. Gradually discover a sense of self-awareness once again. Who am I? This was a question that Clyde had answered to when he was still a Faces. He didn't need to think too much about it. He quickly understood his identity. A person from Earth, a person who had been reconstructed from Clyde's memory fragments of birth and who experiences Nighthawks deeply influenced him. A person who played safe and was afraid of danger, but was able to persist and give him everything. A guardian and a miserable wretch. Strange Sentry, I didn't expect it to be this. Strange sensory organs that didn't come from the body or heart or mind or soul body were extracted bit by bit from fragrance. Condescending, cleansed new thoughts, coldness, calmness, spectating, and overlooking. They were thoughts that allowed him to view the world from even more angles and dimensions. He knew that this could possibly be godhood without putting up any resistance. He chanted the original spirit body fragments in black threads, allowing him to slowly take form again. At this moment, he realized the purpose of advancement rituals. It was the mark and anchor compared to other pathways. I can't believe I fucking opened my mouth. I can't believe I opened my mouth. Why? Like, here's the thing. I didn't know. Another much earlier, however, this didn't require the support of any faith. On the contrary, faith was numerous and jumbled affair of too many personnel. I don't want to look at the clips. I don't want to look at them. He easily wiped away Mandy of Advancer, who was only sequence 5, leaving behind godhood, a grand and profound performance under the watch of countless spectators. Was enough to make it the anchor. Why is this the last chapter? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you doing, Cuttlefish? Like, why would you make this the last chapter of the book? Of this volume? I'm going a week and a half? Adam could match thousands of ordinary spectators. He could imagine the theater of spectators to create the effect. With his entire body taking form, all kinds of knowledge surged out from the depths of the demigod's spirit body, embroiling Clyde's mind and giving him an irresistible impact. It felt as though his brain was about to explode. However, with some level of godhood and rich experience, he could view this as a detached matter and rather easily pass through this stage. Oh my god. The transparent maggots on his face, hands, neck, and beneath his clothes returned to his body, turning back into the black-haired, brown-eyed Clyde Moretti, looking at Dally Simone, who was still in an... Fucking let go, bro! I can't have you... Who was still in an embrace and slowly turning cold. He lifted her up and walked her to Leonard Mitchell. He bent down and placed her on the ground. Dally no longer had pitch black scales or white feathers. She had been restored back to normal and her eyes were closed. The corners of her mouth were curled up like she was having the deepest and sweetest dream. Clyde stood up and looked at Leonard, who had opened his eyes again, and said heavily, "She has returned to the goddess kingdom just like Cat." Why is it still going? Like, why is this scene still going? He had returned to the marionette and reversed Nellie's mutation, allowing her to die like a human before releasing his control over her. Leonard tried to force his smile. Nothing but the sound of acknowledgement. Tears were streaming down his face as Clyde gently nodded his head. worst outcomes. To return to a human in the embrace of a deity she believes in, and where Captain and the others are. As he spoke, he subconsciously tapped his chest 4 times in a counterclockwise fashion. Leonard instinctively drew the sign of the Crimson Moon as he was momentarily taken aback. No, I didn't want them to see each other like this. The fact that this is the first time that Leonard and Klein get to see each other, and it's when Dallie's dying, and we have this whole thing about him and Dunda dancing, and then they have to deal with the fact that someone's dying right now. Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! I don't want to fucking hear it. Oh my god. Shut the fuck up, dude. That was so mean. Take Ma'am Dally back with you to Eastbound and make it known that she died due to Insangle's attack and had made exceptional contributions in causing Insangle's death. Don't worry, no one will investigate you. Of course, you can take this opportunity to leave the Red Gloves. I'm used to the church, Leonard said heavily. Klein took off his hat and bid farewell with a bow. Holding his hat, he turned to walk to the Insangle's body and took a card that had the chariot and the Red Priest on it. The Red Priest wore a face of Roselle Gustave. Leonard's lip was quivering as he suddenly asked, "Aren't you returning to the church?" Klein didn't turn around as he wore his silk top hat and headed for another exit of the square. A few steps later, he paused and replied to Leonard with his back facing him, "I can't return anymore." "Can't return anymore?" Leonard stared in a daze as his familiar figure gradually distanced himself and vanished. "No, don't leave him!" "No, what the fuck? He just left him again!" What the fuck? After a while, a few beyonders fled to Revival Square, and one of them was wearing a clergyman robes of the Church of Evernight. She had a beautiful raven black hair and a crimson face. He just fucking leaves Dallie's body. And then he just took peace. And then he just disappeared. What the fuck? I'm like actually fucking unwell. And no one could tell her age because no one cared. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Dally just died. Her and Dunn just got reunited, but not actually because it was Klein pretending to be Dunn. Leonard and Klein finally got reunited and then like dumped off a body and then dipped, because why would we have Yowie that's not doomed? Like, why would we have a relationship that isn't doomed? Like, who? No. Oh, you're in love? Great. I'm gonna murder the love of your life. Or I'm just gonna prevent you from getting together. Or you both can die. Dude, fuck cuttlefish. The lady was floating in midair and she looked at the square. All she saw was Insangle's story corpse that could hardly be recognized. Covering his cracked head was commonly seen tarot cards. It was the Star. Above the gray fog, Klein placed the Red Priest's card in his left hand and closed his eyes to rest for a moment. No, I'm not. On the other hand, he could transform into animals that were too desperate in size. In the spirit body state, he could completely ignore the point. He could transfer wounds from either of himself or other on paper figurine. He had also gained the enhancement of the flaming jump ability to now stand nearly 1,000. Yeah, the new ability and no span nearly 1,000 meters and might have been able to reach that of a cannon. Fuck, dude, he's so OP now. God, Klein's just fucking, he's so good now. On the other hand, he can now obtain initial control of one's spirit body threads. In 3 seconds, he could turn the target into a marionette. Within 15 seconds, he could control range was 150 meters. At the same time, he could switch spirit body threads, allowing his marionette to obtain all beyond powers within 1,000 meters, and he could switch locations as he vanished. Due to this point, the maggots he separated as a mythical creature form, as well as the disguise from the spirit body threads. Klein obtained a higher level of body doubles. It also meant that as long as no one was a marionette or alive, the bizarre sorcerer would never die. The enemy often found it difficult to know if one kill was the bizarre sorcerer or his marionette. What was the real? What was real? And what wasn't was difficult to determine. After confirming the state and resisting for a moment, Klein immediately walked deep into the mysterious space above the great fog. He headed for the staircase of the light. Oh my god, and now we're getting the staircase. Bro, I'm not ready for the staircase. I just went through so many emotions. I just had so much happen. I'm not ready for the staircase. Okay, I'm looking. Oh my god. As he expected, there was another step. One formed of the light. I don't even want to fucking wear these. This time, Klein believed that he could use the sixth step. Okay. I'll change. Thank you so much. Blessings. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much, Fox Die. Thank you so much. Dude, honestly, thank you so much. I'm just sitting here bawling my eyes, making my whole night better. Thank you so much. This time... Did Transparent finally get one? Such a happy chapter. No, literally. A little bit of celebration for the end. You know it. Thank you. What a king. Okay. This time Klein believed that he could use the sixth step and resemble the giants to the step on the condensed gray clouds. One step, two step, three step. He came to the end and with a leap stepped onto the cloud formed by the gray fog. Reflecting in his eyes was a door of light tainted with the bluish black luster. It formed countless layers of spherical light, and each spherical light enveloped squirming maggots. Some of them were transparent, others translucent, and the scene Klein saw through Enzo's eyes. But the objects were blurry, as though something was obstructing his vision. In addition to above the door, the light, there was a thin black thread that hung down. There was... I'm changing it. Yeah, get this fuck-ass song on. Kami, I hope you know I hate this song more than I've ever hated anything in my life. Like, this song actually gives me some of the worst PTSD I think I've ever had in my entire life. Like, actually, I don't know how to emotionally regulate myself when I hear this fuck-ass song. It's so awful. Okay. Got it. In these cocoons were gently swaying, wrapped different souls. They looked to be of descent, African, Asian, Whoa. They were hanging up with what seemed like completely transparent cocoons. These cocoons were gently swaying, wrapped different souls. They looked to be of all descents, African, Asian, Caucasian, etc. Some were wearing jeans, other holding cell phones. Shut the fuck. Some had beautiful clothes, other had beautiful facial features. All of them had aura as though they were living, but their eyes were slightly closed. Klein's gaze froze as though he'd returned to Earth and had walking onto the streets, which were filled with people. Then he noticed 3 cocoons had opened. They were empty and swaying in the wind. Raising his head, Klein took the sight as he observed in silence. Shut the... That's the end? That's how it fucking ends? I'm sorry? What? That's... What the fuck? Oh my god. No, I can't have a break now, dude. What the fuck am I gonna do? No, literally, I I'm leaving. Oh my god, I just went through so much. That is such a good ending. That's such a good volume. What the fuck? When do I get back? When do I come back? When do I come back? When do I come back? When? It's literally 2 weeks. I don't stream until the 11th of March. Oh my god. Oh my god, I need to look at the artwork in Discord. I look like I literally went through something. I look like... This is my face after fucking dealing with that. Oh my god. What the fuck? Bro! That's what they look like! What the fuck? Oh my god, no! No! This is crazy. Their little wedding? Stop, I'm gonna cry. And then this is what Medici looks like. This is what... I'm so excited to see all this animated, and it looks so good, and there's so much Dalian done, and I'm gonna cry again, and I don't feel well. Oh my god, this is Adam? This is what Adam... Yo, Adam's kind of a baddie, not gonna lie. He's kind of serving, you know? He's serving in his little white robe. That's crazy. Oh, you know, I'm gonna be sending you all the sad edits mixed with the yaoi. I expect nothing less. Thank you so much, Sal. Thank you so much. You know what? Thank you, Sal. That's very, very sweet of you. Aww. And no, I expect you to send me so many sad edits. Just mix it with like some happy little yaoi edits so I don't like off myself. But I'm expecting to probably, for the next 2 weeks until I stream again, I am expecting to cry every single day from the shit that you guys send me. Oh my god. We have so many sad edits. I'm well fucking aware. I'm well aware. Does it have the dance of Dalian done? He is inflicting psychological torture, but he did also just send me money, so... You know, at least he's paying for it. No. I'm like so unwell right now. Well, what did Nagito send? Was it in the Discord that he sent it? Or was it in here? What is... This is the 4th fucking time I said this. Oh, do you understand how declines of Ant-Man ritual work even though there was no spectators? I think I understood it. It wasn't it? Yeah, there you go. Now I got it. Sorry, I never saw it. I think I understood it. I was kind of in a bit of a haze. But wasn't it because I feel like wasn't it because the Quill kind of said that it happened and then Adam kind of interfered in it happening? That's kind of what I got, was like Adam was interfering, making it happen, and like it was writ down that like it was gonna happen. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Unless there was like a spectator there that I don't know about. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's kind of what I thought it was. It was because like Adam, okay, Adam equals a lot. Okay. I figured it was like what it was I was like I figured it was because Adam was there and Adam was the reason why he was like advancing and doing all of this. And like that, yeah. Cuz he's part of that. pathway. Oh my god. Okay, well, that's all I have. Thanks so much for coming. Hopefully it was enjoyable and entertaining. Fun fact, that last chapter took me 3 times longer than every other chapter to read because I was such a fucking mess. Also, big shout out to Fox Eye and Sal for donating. Thank you guys so much. Always appreciate it. Other than that, that's all I have. That's the end of Volume 4. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I did, dude, because those chapters were like, they were so good. I was actually there. I was on the streets with them. It was so good. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful rest of your night. I feel so drained. I'm gonna go watch the new JJK episode and boost my mood because Higuruma's in it. And that's just gonna make everything all better at this point. Other than that, that's all I have. I will see you guys in 2 weeks on the 11th to start Volume 5. So, see you guys then. Other than that, bye-bye. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Love and appreciate you all, and I will see you next time. Dude, somebody better not die in the new episode of JJK, or that's gonna be my 13th reason.